Boom, there it is. Hey, hey. All right. That one's looking good. That one, we shall see. Get on over to my audio thingy and stop that guy. And we'll go to Rockfin on the old Go Live. All right. Looking good. Looks like we got hot streams coming in. Very, very good. Very good. All right. Here we go. Here we go.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Ladies, gentlemen, friends, foes, lurkers, regulars, GMO people, organic people.
Pharaoh, inbound. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome to the Boiler Room, everybody. I'm your host. My call sign is Hesher. Thank you for joining us today over here at alternatecurrentradio.com. That's our website. That's where we're streaming out live tonight. Of course, always at alternatecurrentradio.com. And hello to the YouTube audience out there. Thank you for joining us on the YouTube. We're live streaming on YouTube. We're trying to get our YouTube channel to the point where it's a little bit more functional, a little bit more useful. So everybody, please be sure and sign up over at the YouTube, get a subscription and a notification and all that good stuff. But even more so and even better so, join us at rockfin.com. We're live over at rockfin.com. Big shout outs to everybody on all those platforms, be you at alternatecurrentradio.com, rockfin.com, or YouTube tonight. It is May the 12th, and we want to thank you for joining us here for this episode of Boiler Room. Got the green room filling up behind me here. I'll introduce everybody in a moment. Well, let's see here. I may have overdone it today, gang. I may have overdone it. I try to keep a organized set of items, but sometimes I'm just like the rest of us, and I fall into the rabbit hole, and I can't catch on to anything. It becomes a deluge of twisted turns, like a bad horror movie and a dark comedy gave birth to a technocratic dystopian plot. Out here in the media streams, media maniacs, we're just trying to figure it out. Just normal people trying to figure it out, just like the rest of you. And today was one of those days where it became an absolute breakneck fall down the media maniac matrix, where I hit every branch of the propaganda tree on the way down. Just a bludgeoning effect from every rapid subject change. A cacophony of contradictions in the reporting, an anathema to logical analysis, a criminal convergence of dialectically opposed conspiracies, an orgy of mental illness and stupidity. And it just makes me sad to see entire generations of my countrymen and countrywomen and fellow humans consumed by emotions, outrage, decadence, and self-harm after being raised in the pits of nihilism and moral relativism. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's wonderful to have you all with us. Thanks for joining us if you're out there in the Discord. Also, we have a chat room over on the Discord. You can find a link to that on our website. You can find a link to just about everything Alternate Current Radio, our current live streams, our 24/7 live streams, our support links, all that stuff. Links to all the great videos coming out, all the great audio podcasts coming out. We are filling the arc our new website is an absolute arc of information, entertainment, edification, amusement, and geopolitical WTFage. So get on over there and start diving in. It's just filling up and filling up and filling up. And we're stoked to have you with us tonight. All right, without further ado, let's welcome the Boiler Room into the picture here. I'm going to welcome the man behind the Oddcast first. He goes by the Oddman out. Oddman, welcome back to the show. How you doing tonight?
Hey, what's up, my friend? It's so good to be with my podcasting family, this wonderful cadre, this cabal of truth, if you will. So can't wait to hang out with you guys tonight and talk about our insane world and kind of figure some stuff out, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty going on. Like I said, man, I was trying to get organized for tonight, and it was just one of those days where it's like I'm on a topic and I'm like, wait a minute, what? And I'm off to the next one and off to the next one. And there was so many, I couldn't even just note them all down and write my thoughts down about them or even collect the links. So we're going by the seat of our pants tonight. We're going commando. Okay, you ready to go commando? You leave your drawers at home?
Yeah, dude, I am not wearing anything below this jacket and shirt. So
all right. The Boiler Room is nude below the waist, everybody. You're lucky the cameras are set up the way they are. That's Oddman out of the podcast.
So lucky.
All right. Yes. Okay. Let's say hello to the Wandering Wolf, Mr. Corey Drayton. Welcome back to the Boiler Room, man. It's been a bit since we've seen you. Glad to have you with us this week.
Hey, Hash, thanks so much for having me back at the Boiler Room. And it's it's exciting to have a moment to hang out with my fellow rejects and kind of navigate this desert of the hyper-real. So whatever comes, I'm excited. And about the nakedness comment, hey, I always have the leather jacket on. I practically sleep in it. So I'm ready for whatever comes.
That's right. That is absolutely right. That's how it works around here. All right. Great to see you, man. Looking forward to tonight. Up next, we've got the creator and host of the Soul Purpose podcast. He goes by MindSpaceArt. What is up, man? Welcome back to the Boiler Room.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on, as always. Yes, it's a desert. It's a deluge. It is the realm of postmodern madness that we all have to, discover the truth within. So, it's really an onslaught. And I know that with these great minds together, we can cut through a lot of the BS and just get to the main point. And that's what this show is all about and why it's beloved by so many. So let's keep that track rolling.
There you go. We got our BS warm butter knife out tonight. We're going to see what we can slice up for everybody. Maybe we can slice through some of that BS for everybody. I would never claim to be able to slice through all of it, Mindspace, but let's hope we can at least, slice it up into something we can compartmentalize and clean off of the table.
Absolutely, brother. That's what it's all about. Of course, we're never going to be 100% true. We're not going to get to the absolute answer on every topic, but we're not speaking here from the perspective of the mainstream media, for instance, trying to dictate to people, some dogma that they must believe, so the process of analysis is a lot more nuanced than that. And, if we can get some pearls of wisdom from this exercise, then, it's for the good.
Exactly. It's like we've said many times. It's a battle of attrition. And folks, your media is not your media anymore. If you're out there consuming mainstream media, well, it's your media. It's just not your news. If you consider what's going on, the news without understanding the context and by the context, I mean, the fourth estate is no longer a fourth estate. It has been hijacked. And one of my favorite people to discuss that with is the man behind the Daily Ruckus. Ruckus, among us, what's going on, man? Welcome back to the Boiler Room.
Howdy. Thanks for having me. I feel like I've done this a couple times now, so
Yeah.
I'm always happy to do it. Yeah, you know what? There's got to be some distinction between media and news, because the two words are not inherently the same. But we always refer to the mainstream media, and when we use those words, we're usually referring to the news. But again, media doesn't always necessarily encompass just that. It's media, it's content, it's everything that even includes entertainment and music, if I'm not mistaken. But hey, Hesher, great intro. Man, that was fire. And I know this is going to be a good show. I've already learned a few things. I had no idea that Oddman was some sort of like Jeffrey Toobin pervert. I didn't know that Corey Drayton Wandering Wolf was a never nude. And MindSpaceArt, really, honestly, if you guys are watching us on YouTube or one of the video streams, he really looks like he just got done serving a tour of duty somewhere, like with the Navy SEALs. Either that or he's got like the Zelensky look going on with the military garb and stuff. I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, hello to everybody, and thanks for having me, Hesher.
Absolutely. Great to have you. Great to have everybody here. I believe Infidel Pharaoh is going to bust a combat landing at some point, and there's a rumor that someone might be letting the dogs out. I don't know. We'll see. There could be a Truth Hound appearance. We shall see about that. But yes, I love the hat, Mindspace. Yes, he's got that flavor of battle, Ruckus, because you can see that ACR logo on that nice camouflage hat, and when people see that ACR cube, they know that whoever they're talking to is not messing around when it comes to geopolitics, you name it, current events, philosophy, religion, you name it. There's a very intellectual crowd associated with that symbol right there. So yeah, man, sporting it. I love it. That's an original right there, folks. MindSpace will tell you about it later, but you couldn't even find that one in our store. That is a one of a kind right there. All right, let's welcome the one and only, the very lovely, the curator of all things Whiskey Tango Foxtrot on the interwebs, lovely Spore. Welcome back to the Boiler Room. How you doing?
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Back in studio. I missed last week's show, but I did get a chance to hang out with Wandering Wolf in person in Oregon, so totally worth it. And looking forward to meeting more rejects in the near future, hopefully. But yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
All right. Yes, we're very happy to have you, and we're looking forward to hearing whatever you're going to break the ice with tonight.
Well, this one is from Brian Snoddy, and another great reject from Oregon. And I'm going to read the title and then a couple bullet points here and get y'all's reflection on it. Okay, so
and I'm gonna play some visuals to go along with it, Spore. So you guys let me know if the audio is too loud or anything like that. But we're gonna try something out here. And Spore, take it away. And I'm gonna go ahead and solo this video while you describe it.
is that on just YouTube or is it on Mixcloud too?
We're not on Mixcloud. We're on
Okay,
Rockfin, and we're on YouTube.
All right, right on. That's where you can find the video. Okay, the title is, well, this isn't the exact article that Brian Snoddy sent me, but it is adjacent. There's Aging Gracefully. Then there's this. Madonna sparks horror with graphic NFT videos that feature digital depictions of her vagina and show her birthing trees and bugs, as critics call 63-year-old desperate and creepy.
I just want to be alone.
Madonna is known for her barrier-breaking love of anything risque, but she has taken it to the next level with the launch of her new NFT collection. She teamed up with digital artist, graphic designer, and animator Beeple to make the 3 NFT videos, which left very little to the imagination. The pop star, who often shows off her body in raunchy photos, has brought new meaning to the phrase up close and personal with explicit art videos. The clips left many on the internet horrified and stunned, and they took to Twitter to share their thoughts. One person said, "Fuck the planet. After seeing these videos, While another said it ruined their final shred of heterosexuality. Another said, "Can someone please break it gently to Madonna that not everybody wants to see her vagina?" And another person said, "Really desperate for attention in her old age. She needs an intervention."
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So there you go. Whew.
Well,
And
Brian, thanks for bringing this, Brian Snotty. I appreciate you bringing this to us for the icebreaker. But man, I watched so many videos of this smut today to try and figure out what was going on. And I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I'm speechless, frankly.
oh my gosh. Okay, so for those of you that were just listening on the podcast format, this sample of the NFT that Madonna has teamed up with Beeple on. If you don't know who Beeple is, we've discussed Beeple before. It's an artiste collective, if you will, that put content out every day
I
and
think
do
it's
special.
people crap.
Yeah, Beeple_crap if you want to find them on social media or on the web. And that's BEEPLE_crap. Yeah, in this case, the name fits. That was very creepy. But anyways, if you didn't get to see that, if you're not on one of the streaming platforms here, it's an explicit 3D rendering of Madonna, and they've blurred out her genitalia, but you can bet whoever owns this NFT has the very, very detailed 3D image of that. And there are bugs and bees and butterflies and all kind of stuff emanating from her womb as the world is apparently falling apart behind her. So there's a bit of a apocalypse happening behind her. So yeah, okay. I'll have to hand this over to Oddman out. I can tell he's dying to say something about Madonna here.
Well, you said apocalypse, and I was thinking a pair of lips, but you know,
What's
I
tomato
couldn't help
tomato in this case, right?
right. I couldn't help but notice those butterflies, of course, and I'm thinking, and I don't know for sure, but is that the monarch butterfly, as in MK Ultra? Because I'm pretty sure it is. Someone
you
else
go.
will probably tell me. The guys are,
Yeah, they definitely look like monarch butterflies.
Yeah,
They were like
yeah.
baby ones, small ones.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know,
look,
man.
look
she's got-
here's a blow up of it right there. Yeah, that's definitely a monarch right there.
It's so weird that a lot of these, it seems to be the female singers too, have the monarch symbolism at some point in their career. But yeah, she is so desperate for attention, and it's like you see her on one of these talk shows, and she acts like, I don't know, she acts like she's like 15, you know. So she's pretty disgusting. Either way you slice it, and it is kind of pathetic for her to do that. But it doesn't surprise me, because I think she would do anything basically at this point to get attention.
Okay, so she's like over like 20 years older than me, and I'm watching this thing and thinking like I feel like an old person. Like, nobody wants to look at this smut. Like, why would anybody want to be like looking at Madonna's badge at her 60-something-year-old badge, like in CG right now? It's like, it's so bizarre to me. It's really far out. It's just another, clown in the car, like another clown in the clown car.
Except this clown has a tree growing out of its genitalia.
And like centipedes or,
Yeah, there's a number of
whatever.
Yeah, really, really creepy there. Let's see here. Let me fix this real quick. There we go. Let me hear from Ruckus on this one, because Ruckus is one of our NFT enthusiasts here.
For sure, we'll go with that. Yes, I'm unfamiliar with the crypto stuff and the NFT craze, and I call this is one giant publicity stunt. There's a link in the stories for this to go check out the website that's releasing this NFT set, and you can watch these videos, or at least I assume most of them, anyways. But unedited, and the only one technically, and I watched them. I will admit it. I was like, I have to see what this is all about, right? And it's not. Another thing we should probably think is like, I don't think that the series is intended to be about the nudity and trying to be sexual about it. It's definitely an artistic thing, and they're trying to actually push this lefty climate agenda. There's something behind all of this. This isn't just on the face value of like, whatever. But I think at the end of the day, it is just a shock thing to get everybody like, oh my God, and go click and look and bring some attention to her, because, that's what it's really all about. But the nudity stuff, it's not really all, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because there's 3 of them, there's only the one with the tree coming out actually showed, at least on the website. So I don't know if you get the whole thing or there's a different version when you buy the NFT, but I don't think so. I think they actually show you what the videos look like that you're buying right there on their website. The only one that actually shows her vagina, like, that looks like almost like a vagina, I guess, would be the one with the tree coming out of it. The other ones are like the one with the bugs coming out. It's like there's no vagina. It's like a plain crotch, and then like it like starts to break apart into what starts to look like one almost, and then it's just immediately bugs coming out. And then the other one, you don't even really see it. You just see bugs crawling out. But again, I think that she's the artist and herself to trying to push on some sort of propaganda message with the imagery or brainwash everybody. And of course, hey, nude vagina, Madonna, ew, gross. Hey, I want to see, it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like a Barbie doll sort of genitalia, like a nothing there, but like, people responded like it was prawn.
So, all right, Ruckus, I was just reading down this article here, and it says in that particular one that we were sampling there, the butterflies are a metaphor for the paradox that the world is burning down in a post-apocalyptic scene, but there's still evidence of life. We continue to give birth no matter what destruction is going on, no matter what oppression we face. It relays the important message that if you are waiting for the world to be perfect or for your life to be perfect to create art, it will never happen. We have to do it for our own survival in this chaotic, unpredictable world, to close the quote. But the thing is, like, and what's with the timing on this? Is this just lucky timing or synchronicity or what? Because like everything, I think she had everything but the kitchen sink come out of her digital vagina there, Wandering Wolf, except for a human.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? And just like Oddman, when I saw that, what I presumed to be a monarch, I also thought MK Ultra sex kitten stuff going on there too. You know what else is interesting? So you kind of have the sort of veneration of the fertility goddess imagery mixed in with all of this kind of apocalyptic doom and gloom death. But also, for some reason, what popped into my mind was the little-known 1991 Richard Linklater film Slacker, where there's an entire running gag throughout the film where a lesbian woman is running around the streets of Austin trying to sell people a Madonna pap smear, right? And she's got this jar and she's holding it up to all of these random people on the street and asking them if they want to buy a Madonna pap smear. And it's just kind of interesting. And I'm not necessarily saying that there's predictive programming going on in an independent film, but it does really seem like there's a strange alignment between the sort of world, the alternate world of cinema and real life in this NFT. It's that's just an interesting thing to think about, I think.
Yeah, very much so. My goodness, that's crazy. That is absolutely nuts. Mother of technology. That's another aspect here. The article goes on to say, rounding out the trifecta of weirdness is yet another video called Mother of Technology, in which Madonna's lady bits are prominently featured, this time birthing insects to demonstrate, quote, the way science can also give birth light into the world, but only if used with the right consciousness, end quote. Whoa, that's some gobbledygook right there, MindSpaceArt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It reminded me of the Grimes bit, of sort of this religious fanaticism of, technocracy and the age to come. But you made a point there that I think we should underscore, which is that everything is being given birth to here except for a child, right? So, what is this really? There's a lot of waxing poetic about, life and the importance of life, the sanctity of life. The birth rates would suggest otherwise. The actual on the ground, volume of life, human life that is entering into our nation, by the domestic population is going the other way. So we should take note of that and realize that these people, they're not really about fertility. They're about birthing something else, right? And that's sort of what is being alluded to. I guess that they want to use society as a giant birth canal for their demonic transhumanist agenda. And they're talking about how consciousness brings this in. So we wind up thinking about just the fact that they're admitting that what they want to do is they want to alter consciousness. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, these people don't have a good track record. Madonna does not have a good track record. She is one of the select props for the entertainment arm of the whatever it is. The entertainment industrial complex, right? So she's out there as a figure that they just prop up again and again, to push whatever toxic kind of garbage that they're trying to feed everybody. So that's the point there. And in a way, I think they really are focused on inverting the sacred feminine, if you will, of the society. They really they despise the feminine aspect of all things, which is really that creative, spark that is within people, and also the spark of love, if you will. So that's my take on those things.
Yeah, that's very well said there, MindSpaceArt. This is very strange stuff. Let me go ahead and welcome. We got a combat landing here by the Truth Hound. Someone let the dog out. Hey, man, welcome to the show. We got Mark Anderson, the Truth Hound, joining us here in the boiler room. Everybody, how you doing, Mark?
Pretty well. That's a good metaphor. I like that. Like I'm a parachuter or a paratrooper. Yeah, and I hit a tree and then fell extra hard and fell into a pit of rattlesnakes. So it's been a real bummer day.
Yes. Well, welcome to the show, Mark. It's great to have you. And look at that, we got Infidel Pharaoh joining right now too. Infidel Pharaoh, welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Did I just come at the same time as Mark Anderson?
Yeah, you guys basically joined almost 10 seconds apart.
We jumped out of the same plane.
Great mind, great mind. Oh yeah, that Russian plane that was just flying over Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, Putin sent us, by the way.
Right. Yeah, we had a Spetsnaz drop in here into the boiler room. Mark Anderson and Infidel Pharaoh coming to give us some backup here. Great to have you guys with us.
Great to be had.
All right. So let me just tell you guys real quickly here. Mark, I'll wrap up what we did for an icebreaker in 10 seconds. Madonna is too old and too weird to be doing 3D models of her vagina with bugs and butterflies coming out of them and trees. I think we all agree that this is probably not a good sign for humanity. Here, let me just show you real quick what I'm talking about, so you can see this. Madonna has had a 3D render of herself made by a very famous artist. And it's all modeled around her nude and being the mother of creation, creating all kinds of things except for human life. We got butterflies and trees. And
oh my God.
caterpillars and robotic caterpillars. I think I have a picture of that one. There it is. She had this robotic caterpillar climb out of her Barbie doll midsection. Yeah, so that's happening. That's a thing, Mark. Isn't that strange?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to jokingly say I disagree. I love it, and all this, but if I'll back out of the humor mode and go a little more serious, there's sort of a pantheistic thing going on there, right? Sort of all life is equal: a tree, a human, a slug, a worm. That's a major kind of socialist, secularist, Darwinist kind of almost Malthusian way of thinking, that human life holds no special meaning. And in fact, it's so low that she's not even shown giving birth to a human, but a tree, which of course is not just a weird metaphor, but literally, I mean, it's not even a mammal, an amphibian, or a reptile. It's not even a sentient being, really. Although some tree huggers would disagree, but there's a strange kind of paganism going on there, and sort of a Earth Day sort of twisted ethos at the same time. That's just my initial take, but it's something. There's a statement there, that human beings really account for nothing in the scheme of things. Is my first blush.
Yeah, there's some I don't know if I'd call it globalese per se. I'm not really sure what to title the linguistics that go with it there, Mark, but there's stuff like one of the videos is called Mother of Technology. And it's to demonstrate, quote, the way science can also give birth light into the world, but only if you
right.
the right consciousness.
Yeah, science has really been serving us well lately, right? They can't seem to find a cure for cancer. They can't cure Parkinson's. They can't cure the common cold. We've been scammed and almost completely destroyed by COVID. The only good thing they did is almost close the public schools. Maybe we'll still get our wish. Science has been corrupted in the physical sciences, like your astrophysics and whatnot, and the practical applied sciences, like medicine. Science is PSYENCE or something like that now. It's they've abandoned the idea of finding the truth and turned it as, and I'm not saying anything that no one doesn't know, but they've turned it into just a dogma. Far more of a dogma than any organized religion, I would argue. At least equal to the worst of the organized religions that have went bad or maybe had bad seeds from the start. But yeah, this is science is not our servant, it's our master. And you've got people that have no regard for the truth that are in the positions of running the scientific community as it's known. And no part of science has went untouched by this. It's really as bad as it can get.
Yes, indeed. Mother of Creation triptych. I guess there are 3 videos, and the overall project is the Mother of Creation triptych, and there's a whole set of things that go along with that too, I'm sure. Infidel, what do you think, man? Interesting icebreaker. Our listener Brian Snoddy brought that one to us.
Thank you, Brian. I know you bring the good stuff. Well, I will start by saying that I fantasize about many vaginas, but Madonna was never one of them. I'm pretty damn scared to even think about what went in there and what comes out of it. So I'm not surprised that this tree is coming out now. I don't know. The whole thing is just weird. Like, was this like in an exhibit or like what is it for?
It's a NFT. It's a set of specially made NFT videos, I guess, that people can buy. And she's giving proceeds to several charities. That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Okay, so there is actually she's giving seeds, like 3 seeds with it.
No, but there's 3 series. It's a 3-part series, and an NFT is a non-fungible token. So that it's like, I mean, for those listeners that don't know what an NFT is, from what I've seen, it can be anything from like what Madonna did, where it's like a CG graphic video that you only get to see parts of, or there are actual like tangible items with graphics or CG or computer pieces that are a part of them that are sold for very large amounts of money because they're supposed to be like original arts.
Yeah, this one arguably might be really expensive. Maybe someone knows how much they're going for. I don't, but it's Beeple art, so it's that same guy that's super famous. He's been on Rogan and all these other things.
So is she giving that for charity or? She has
The proceeds go to charities. She has 3 different charities that she's sending the proceeds to.
Proceeds. Okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see how much it was worth though.
Yeah, I'm wondering what charities it's going for.
One of them is for displaced women and children from the Ukraine. Go figure.
I was actually going to say Ukraine is one of those for sure. Good. She did not disappoint me.
Right.
There was a place in Latin America that she was helping, or people that she was donating to, and then she was also donating to, I can't remember the title. It was like donating to women that are in jail that can't see their kids so that they could get out of jail for Mother's Day and see their children.
Oh, right. Yes. They were all sort of women's charities, basically. They seem to be very femme-centric. So
did she give anything to Johnny Depp for his case?
Oh, I don't know. Do you think she's on Team Depp or Team Heard?
I think she's not on Team Depp.
Oh, she's not? Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking I wouldn't be surprised if she's on Team Heard, but that might be a sinking ship. I mean, that woman may actually be going to jail for perjury or something at this point, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole there.
Well, some of these NFTs can actually change or mutate or be advanced if you take like some of the other ones, put them together or burn them and destroy them, and then you get a new special, more advanced and more expensive and rare NFT. So maybe if you do that here, maybe what comes out of Madonna's cooch is like some bed sheets and like a big pile of steaming. Never mind.
Oh, so it's like it's like Pokemon, like they hatch and they come out and.
Right. Yeah, you check in on your Madonna NFT, every month or so, and see what's new, see what the crack in the egg is producing this week, perhaps. All right, we're only gonna
back to your point though. I want to say one more thing. Is like back to your point there, Hesher. Like, how odd is it that this video comes out during this whole Roe v. Wade reoccurrence thing, and at the same time, suddenly the supply of baby formula is not in stores anymore. I don't know. It's just all seems really weird. And here's one more to add to all that. Thank you all for your icebreaker suggestions. I love them. And this clown world makes it really hard for me to choose something. And there was just too many pregnant men in the suggestions. Like, why is this all happening right now? It just seems like too many weird webs that are intertwined.
Congruent media synchronicities that don't make sense. Yeah, I
great distractions. It's a great distractions. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, and wondering, Wolf, wouldn't you say that some of these types of media swells like this are many months, maybe years in the making? I know, for example, this Madonna NFT, it says on there they've been working on it for quite a long time, more than a year, I think. So maybe it's not just synchronicity and coincidence that we're just getting bombarded with all these similar and conflicting, memes, basically.
Yeah, Hesher, that's absolutely right. When I think about a lot of the agency work that I've done over the years, usually by the time I get brought into a campaign as a DP, the campaign has already been in development for at least a year. So all of the concepting, all the ideation, they usually have pitch decks, they have scripts written, they have storyboards if they're going that deep. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of prep and planning that goes into even a bare bones basic media release of of this sort. And so that's a perfect opportunity, I think, to really hide something much more nefarious. There's so many different chains of incidents, chains of accountability, and people involved in the creative process. You can tuck and hide away almost anything you want and make it look completely innocuous. So I'm certainly inclined to believe that this has been in the making for a while. And also, too, you know, the way that artists will always reference each other and make callbacks to well-known works of art. You know, when I first saw the images that you were showing earlier, my mind went back to a very famous work by Hieronymus Bosch, The Garden of Earthly Delights. And if you look in the panel that depicts hell, you have creatures erupting from the orifices of human beings who are being tormented by demons. So the sort of the color palettes that are being used are very similar to the color palettes in the panel of that triptych as well. And every single colorist and art director is going to be using colors very deliberately to reference earlier works. So a tremendous amount of planning and thought has gone into the development of these NFTs.
Oh yeah, yeah, very well said. Good point, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, excellent points. Very deep insights. I appreciate that. That really shed a lot of light on the whole thing. Of course, we all have to keep in mind that the point in nothing making sense is for nothing to make sense. That is the point. You see, it's Operation Chaos, you might say. They're trying to distort the very foundation of thought and the understanding of our world. It's not enough that they lie about events or we have crooked politicians. If we only had garden variety corruption and good old fashioned graft, we'd have a free country, right? It's far worse than that. And what you're seeing is the distortion of anything that's holy, anything that's wholesome, anything that's edifying. They want to destroy and undercut. It does have the satanic fingerprint on it. Some will take that literally, some will take it figuratively, but that's also the essence of it. But yeah, this what Wandering Wolf just got done saying, there's an actual, identifiable characteristics about this thing where you can see what it means with reference to other things, and then all the thought that they put into it. I mean, think about our own mentality. Who would put that kind of thought into something like that, right? To us, that is just so completely out of character and outside the realm of possibility. I mean, we would just never do that. And these people put those kind of, garish things together, spending tens of millions of dollars and a year or two on something like that the average person would never even conceive of, much less carry out. So it just shows you what kind of cloistered world they live in, right? Developing this anti-art, anti-culture stuff as part of this Operation Chaos. And, you also see it, I won't go on too long, but you'll also see it in the entertainment media. Of course, what Madonna's doing here is sort of a corollary of the entertainment media. But we got to remember that it's not just the mass media cartel, it's the entire entertainment media and Hollywood apparatus. And like if you watch the new cop shows, not like Columbo or, the cop shows of yesteryear from the 70s and 80s or 60s or any of those, but if you watch the new cop shows like Chicago PD or anything that Dick Wolf has produced, which is also Chicago PD, or Law and Order, some of those, and a lot of the CSI. Now there's all sorts of references in all those cop shows about, well, there's white supremacists, well, there's super patriots, well, there's election deniers, there's COVID deniers. All this is coming up in these cop dramas. So this is a saturation thing that's going on from the establishment. They're not leaving a stone unturned. The more I see it, the more I see how much it's growing and expanding and just weaving its way into all areas. And so I think this is part of a very large pattern in my estimation.
Yeah, it definitely is, Mark. I agree. We're dealing with something so full spectrum. And one of the scary things is, like,
Yes.
So many people could flip through Instagram or wherever they might see that or the news article where, New York Post is where we were reading it from. Someone could flip through that, and if they didn't really stop and think about what we're talking about here, they might just go, oh, look, that Beeple guy did this animation. That's weird and gross. And then just keep going. Or they might absorb the whole thing and then just let it sink in and keep going and think that it's no big deal, right? Like think that it's and Corey, maybe you can speak to this too, because I'm sure you know a lot more of the technical terms here that I'm getting at, but it's like people will just take that in and go, oh yeah, that famous guy made that piece of art. He makes a piece of art every day. He's neat. Not realizing that, yeah, that's selling for millions of dollars probably, and millions of dollars went into it. And if you look at all the man hours involved in creating something like that, I mean, just animating the butterfly itself and replicating it and having all those butterflies fly around is a huge job. I mean, I'm sure it's been a while since I've animated anything. I'm sure they've got kind of plugins that make these things go faster and faster for developers. But overall, a 3D animation set is similar to a film set in the sense that you've got a guy who's just doing lighting and a guy who's just doing dynamic interactions between models and renders. A guy who's just a guy or a girl, forgive me, everybody, Zims and Zers, you're all invited, who's doing the textures and the skins, and then the modeling, the framework, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's not that different from a set in the amount of time, money, energy, and people that need to go into creating something like that.
Yeah, both of you guys are exactly right, and I want to speak to both of the points you're bringing up. First, Hesher, what you're describing as sort of the production line on an animation being identical to that on set, I can confirm that is exactly how it is. And keep in mind too, so something created this way using professional motion designers, motion capture artists, colorists, and all the rest of it. These are all union jobs. So they have a very specific pay scale. They work a specific number of hours. There's a certain set of expectations that go into creating a work like this. So, these NFTs likely took a year to produce from ideation to release. And so that kind of speaks to the next point. When you watch a television show, Mark, you were bringing this up with regards to police procedurals. Yeah, it's absolutely the case that there's a illusion of synchronicity and spontaneity that's created when you watch a television show and you see the characters that you have grown accustomed to spending your prime time with every night or every week, talking about issues that are topical. Those scripts were written a year earlier. The production, the principal photography to shoot an episode of television, that already happened. So by the time the show airs, the events that are being referenced in the show are happening in the world. But again, I think a lot of people, when they watch a television show, they think, oh, okay, well, this episode that is airing this week, principal photography happened on that show the last week. No, that happened 6 months earlier. It's already in the can, and it's been in editing. It's been in sound mixing. They have to remix the dialogue. They have to go back in and do color correction. There's a million things that have to happen for something to be released to the public. So this illusion of synchronicity and spontaneity is definitely part of the game.
And one of the rankest examples I saw of that, I believe, Wandering Wolf, was that movie Songbird that came out just months after the pandemic hit. That was absolutely creepy. And to me, like, it seems like even the most, someone very unfamiliar with your industry should be able to figure that out. It doesn't seem like a long stretch to go, hey, wait a minute, how did they get this enormous Hollywood movie produced within a couple months of this thing happening? And we're to believe it's a novel thing.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the way these things are marketed and the way most people operate in the world, because we are oversaturated with content, is that, oh, hey, we're making a topical film based on events that are happening right now. And because the technology is so good and we can shoot movies on iPhone, no, you can't, but that's how things are being marketed. It only took 3 or 4 months to get a fully financed, full quality feature film from ideation to release in the span of 3 months. That's just not how things are done. And that's largely because of the structure of Hollywood itself. If I'm working on a union production, there are a number of things that have to happen before that deal memo can be signed and I can show up on set. In order for me to operate as a DP, I need to have certain things in place that are negotiated behind the scenes before I show up for my first day of work. That process takes a long time. You can't do an entire production in 3 months. There's just no way, because that's how the machine is built.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, everybody. Songbird, you should have questions. We should all have questions about how that came about. COVID-23, huh? Okay, let me go over to MindSpace here. MindSpace, what do you think, man? We've covered a lot of ground already here, and we're just getting started. It feels like.
Oh yeah, we're boiling. This is at a simmer. Yeah, I just want to comment there on what Corey was saying, because a lot of the problems in our world right now are stemming from the fact that people are divorced from the processes of how they how these things are crafted behind the scenes. So there is that element where the limit of their knowledge, the limit of their experience with the process of creating, whether it's a movie or some form of entertainment, film, etc. It's trapping people in this stasis where they don't realize the time, the energy, the effort, and specifically the timetable was what you guys were referencing there, which when you bring all of those things to bear, then you can understand that there's a lot more at play than simply the organic progression of ideas. And that is a form of modern literacy when it comes to technology, when it comes to modern communications. And so without that understanding, it's created a stratification in terms of knowledge in our societies. And those who have who are involved in the process and have a degree of sophistication with those things have such a great advantage over the lay public, who are very much so unaware of just how that process takes place. And, I call it a modern form of literacy because it is just that important. Like, people need to know how this stuff is crafted. They need to be aware of what goes on behind the scenes, because then at that point you can have accountability, and it's not just this sense like everything is happenstance, right? And people are going to think that things are happenstance more and more, because as you have this severe trauma that is being inflicted upon it, just the shock and the shell shock and the turbulence of our times because of what's being rolled out in so many ways, people are already in that mindset that, I think it's more of a primal instinctual thing. Things are just chaos. It's just happening. And that makes everything much more immediate. So it's what's immediately in front of the screen that is the truth. You're not thinking about the causal chain of events. You're not exercising that prefrontal cortex. And that's really where we need to help to get people to, because a lot of this movie magic is intended to keep people in these states of stress and confusion, fear-based response that makes them more easily prey to whatever forms of messaging that these people would like to put forth.
I hear you, man. I am definitely sensing the trauma, the confusion, the chaos, and all of these things associated with Madonna's NFTs. Oh my God, I can't get that out of my head. All right, we got a big room tonight. Anybody dying to jump in here? Go ahead, open mic.
Yeah, I just wanna bring maybe another lame perspective to that. She's set to release her new album 2022. So what if this is just to stir people up as an advertisement for her album?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great marketing for her album. It kind of puts her out front in the social zeitgeist right now, right? Because everybody's all about, pro-life and pro-choice right now. That whole thing, like, because the media's jamming that up us right now, and the deep state jamming that one right in there. To use, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Spore. You're gonna have to. All right, she'll fix that. All right, Spore was going to jump in there, but her mic's not working right now. At any rate, yeah, Infidel, that's a good point, man. Marketing, and she's got a new album coming out, and right now she's relevant because and we've also got, like Spore was pointing out, we've got the birthing persons thing just going absolutely gangbusters right now. We've got just the whole thing with the baby food right now. Oh my gosh, we should probably talk about that before we go to break, because I'm kind of interested in that. But it definitely puts her in a good PR position, Infidel. I would agree. Oh, it also puts her in the
yeah,
sites.
she's working on a bio too, so I think she's just setting herself up
On a what?
on a bio.
Oh, like a book or a movie
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, a biography.
Oh gosh, she hasn't done a couple of those already. Who's gonna buy that?
I think it's a movie. She's working on a movie.
Oh great, the Material Girl movie. No thanks.
She's going to enter politics. She'll run for president.
Well, you remember she was one of the very passionate speaker back in 2017 during that, after the inauguration, right? And the Woman March.
Oh yeah, she had the pussy hat and everything, right?
Oh yeah, she was like out there, and she wanted to bomb the White House, actually, if you remember.
Oh yeah, I recall her saying something like that. Isn't that interesting? She could make a claim like that, no one cares, and then the whole J6 things happen. It just doesn't make sense. I'm so confused by it all. All right, anyone else want to throw in on this one?
Didn't Johnny Depp have the same problem too?
I don't know, man.
Not with trees growing out of his vagina. No, but making threats on the White House or something like that. I thought he was in the news for saying some inflammatory stuff towards the Trumpster there or whatever.
Oh, I don't recall.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, all right. Yeah, they slipped through. All right, Spore, give me a mic check. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't do anything different. I have no idea what happened, but there was another part where in her Instagram, she was showing Beeple crap with like his jacket filled with like stuffing, and he was pretending to have a baby at the same time. So there was she was like, oh, he had his legs open wide, just like I did.
What is wrong with these people? My goodness. Jeez. How about you, Oddman? Anything you want to throw at this one before we move along?
Well, I was just thinking I'd like to see the videos in full. I'm going to check them out afterwards, but I'm sure there's probably some occult, deeper occult meanings hidden in there, peppered throughout there. She was into Kabbalah. She probably still is. And, I know there's different forms of Kabbalah, but it does seem to be the foundation for just about every occult group or kind of magical thought process out there. So there may be some Crowley Scarlet Horror kind of symbolism in there too. So it'll be, I'm kind of interested to go back and watch it and kind of see if I can figure out if there's more stuff in there than what I just saw.
Yeah. I'm guessing it's going to be full of it, man. It is going to be full of it. You're going to be hitting pause every few seconds there and trying to write some notes down. I mean, we almost, Brian, if you're out there in the chat listening, we almost ditched this one because Spore and I watched it and we're like, this is too much to unpack. Like, there's way too much going on here. But we decided to go for it. It was just too enticing to not go for it. So there you go. There you have it. There's your icebreaker, everybody. Anyone else, feel free to weigh in. Open mic.
Hey, just one quick point I was thinking about. It was Infidel who made me think about this because he was talking about a record release. And this is something that I've noticed just being in the entertainment industry. The language around content hitting the market has completely changed from where it was 20 or 30 years ago. We used to say that something was being released on such and such a date. Now we say that something drops. The new record dropped, the new Star Wars film dropped, whatever it is. This has always bothered me because it seems to imply that people are looking up above themselves to marketing companies and studios to give them the gift of whatever this art is. And it seems less democratic to me. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but it's something that's bothered me a lot. Whenever I hear someone say, oh, the new thing is about to drop, it kind of gets my back up because I don't feel as an artist that I'm above the masses.
Interesting concept, man. That is very interesting. And it does also feel sometimes like maybe the artist or maybe the label or the lawyers or whoever are holding it above us, right? Like, you know, for example, there was a number of albums that I knew were going to come out in early 2020 or spring 2020 that did not come out because the concert industry was completely wrecked. You know, they ruined the live show industry. So some noteworthy artists just held on to their stuff. And, you know, I guess it's all going to come out this year and next year, probably, if we don't have another, you know, if the pandemic industrial complex doesn't strike back, you know, we're going to get part 2 at some point here. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
To what Wandering Wolf was saying, not only is there this arrogation, you know, this arrogance, this top-down thing, we're all the lumpen proletariat and they're the big stars. So not only is there that extreme classism, if you want to call it that, or almost like a caste system, there's also the simple, hard fact that the talent has went through the toilet. The people that are in the entertainment industry just aren't any good anymore. That's rock music. That's just about anything you can think of. Compare any drummer, guitar player, singer in rock and roll, say 30 years ago, 25 to 30 years ago, back when classic rock was still kind of a new thing, especially guitar, and I'm a drummer myself. The talent has went down so much. There's people that can't sing that are airbrushed, and there's just such a lack of quality, and it's not even all, it's not just the subversion and the you know, chaotic kind of symbolism that Madonna's getting into. It's not just this weird pantheist, globalist, new agey thing that they kick around. It's the simple fact that they don't have any talent. I mean, compare, if you look at, I watch a lot of old westerns, you know, you look at John Wayne, you look at Tyrone Power. I mean, the old actors just, by and large, just blow these people away. And or Charlton Heston in Ben-Hur or something, you know, it's just amazing how far things have fallen in terms of just raw talent in movies, in rock music especially, where I know a lot about it, but just about everywhere. Try and find another Buddy Rich, right? Try and find another drummer like that. You won't.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and there's statistical proof for anyone out there that wants to argue that. If you look at the streaming services, their charts, the decades of particularly the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s far outsell modern music, and that's just a fact. And I guess you could attribute a lot of different things to the reasoning for it, but that is actually how it's working out. Like, it's very possible the guys in Aerosmith are making more money than Eminem when it comes to you know, their Spotify income and stuff like that, because those genres and eras are just, and plus people have access to every single one of those now. It's like when I was a kid, you had to go to the record store and flip through them, and you're only getting like the new stuff, and sometimes you look through the old stuff. But now it's like a young person or anyone who hasn't had a lot of experience with music can look with a wide lens at the entire spectrum. Like every decade, you know, has its own vibe or vibes, and all the subgenres you can fall down in, like the searchability. Like, you basically, what I'm saying is you have the searchability of the entirety of musical history, basically, and people are focusing on the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And what do you know? Most of that music was made in analog fashion. Also, Mark, isn't that interesting? Not a whole lot of, like, it was in the earlier mid 90s when you started seeing analog studio recordings being transferred to digital before being mastered. That was like a big, like, whoa, what are we doing here? And then it was like we got to a certain point where we have all this great studio gear, and then the compute, the MIDI technology and the computers and the digital audio workstation softwares all just exploded into a thing where anybody could make music. And now we're to the point where we've got we've got AI writing symphonies and stuff. So I guess there's something to be said for the analog age, you guys.
Yeah, very
the only
much
other.
so.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say quickly, that's very much the case. I'm so glad you brought that up, because when I was in film school, I went to film school the late 90s, early 2000s. I learned on 16mm, Super 16mm, and 35mm film stock. We didn't have red cameras, RA Alexas, all the rest of it. We didn't have DSLRs. So that really informed the idea that if you're taking a shot on set, everything has to be pitch perfect and dialed in, because you cannot afford to waste film stock. And so I think that really speaks to this idea of why you have quality talent. I mean, that's not to say that, Roger Corman, yeah, he had a career, but that, if you're shooting something on film, you don't want to waste that celluloid. And with the advent of digital technology, it's so much easier to get a massive shooting ratio. So you don't really need the talent necessarily to be as good. So some of that definitely is technological, like you said, Hesher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, you're gonna jump in there?
Oh, I remember not too long ago, Joe Walsh wrote a song called "I'm an Analog Man in a Digital World." If you haven't heard that song by Joe Walsh, check it out. I'll just leave it at that. Analog Man in a Digital World.
All right, there you go. Excellent. Okay, well, we'll take a break in a minute here, but what do you guys think about this whole thing with of course, the supply chain, blah blah blah? We've been talking about this for forever. We've seen it coming long before it actually hit. Just like the inflation, this was all very easy to predict with all the money that they started printing during 2020, 2021. Continuing to print. There's still, it's like every week I'm looking, there's a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar package going to Ukraine or somewhere. And there is, I guess there's no baby formula on the shelves in this country right now. I'm seeing this all over the place. It's at least that's what they're saying in the news. I haven't gone and checked our local shelves, but yeah. What do you guys think about this? I also saw that I saw a headline saying that they were sending a bunch of formula to the southern border because we've got more caravans, groups of 100 people or more coming across the border with kids that need to be fed. So there seems to be a little bit of uproar in the media zeitgeist about this one. Have you seen anything about this, Oddman?
No, I haven't, man. I've actually been kind of unplugged the last couple of days, but it's just interesting when these things happen, because you wonder how much truth is in there. And of course, we always ask: is there things behind the scenes? Is there a reason why we're hearing this certain headline, seeing this certain headline and this certain news story? So I don't know much about it, but I know that in the past, we've seen these headlines that become outrages, and there's a lot of fear mongering, and then you wonder, were they trying to just like promote baby formula? I know that sounds crazy, but there was that big scandal in the past where they were trying to promote baby formula, saying it was better than natural breast milk, and then that was found out to be totally false. And so you just got to wonder what's going on. I know I talked to a couple last week, and they were in Idaho, and they said that they couldn't find eggs, that there's no eggs at any of the grocery stores. And I haven't seen that here yet, but like, you just wonder, we know that there's got to be a shortage on certain things, and we keep hearing about it in other places, and it's going to happen. And it seems, I think, fake to everyone, even to me. So I just keep my eyes open and see what how this plays out.
Oh, I want to follow up on what Oddman just said there, because I did an icebreaker a while back. I'm pretty sure it was about biomilk. And I think Ben SQ, or I'm not sure exactly the name or Discord, but Timmer was the first person to mention this in our general, and then Ben followed it up with a YouTube clip that showed how Bill Gates he basically owns this company that has been trying to produce a fake breast milk since like 2020. And which is not that far ago, obviously, but there might be something there, because you take out, okay, first of all, I mean, I was talking to Hesher about this last night. First of all, these formulas are generally not really healthy for the baby in the first place. These soy, I mean, they're soy formulas. They're not like nearly as nutritious as breast milk. And Bill Gates is promoting a company that is producing a fake breast milk or formula. And so this might be really good for his efforts.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting that they're talking food shortage, and he's bought up all this farmland also. So we got food shortages, we're expecting food shortages, and he owns all this farmland now. What's that all about? Why did all that farmland open up? Oh, overregulation and basically family farmers being pushed off their land by overregulation. So here's something. So Oddman, here's something. Add a little context for you and anyone who hasn't been following this story here. A major manufacturer is Abbott. Abbott, what are they? Abbott Food, Abbott Lab, Abbott Laboratories. All right, so Spore, we're already talking about laboratories here with the soy-based slop that some babies are unfortunate enough to have to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read you a little bit from this article here. A major U.S. manufacturer of baby food has said that it could take 6 to 8 weeks for its products to reach shelves following a widespread recall, exacerbating a shortage of baby formula. Abbott Laboratories, which makes baby food and formula, shut its manufacturing facility in Sturgis, Michigan in February following a federal investigation after it recalled 3 baby formula products amid reports of infant illness, including 2 infants who died. In a statement on Wednesday, Abbott said it was hoping to restart the Sturgis factory in 2 weeks, pending approval from the Food and Drug Administration. And they added that baby formula would probably take 6 to 8 weeks to reach the stores. Quote, we would begin production of Elecare, Alimentium, and metabolic formulas first, and then begin production of Similac and other formulas. The company insisted there is no evidence connecting its formula products to infant illness. While one pathogen linked to illness in children was found at the facility during environmental testing, Abbott said that it was found in non-product contact areas of the facility and has not been linked to any known infant illnesses. In all 4 cases, the state, the FDA, and or the CDC tested samples of the Abbott formula that was used by the child, it said. In all 4 cases, all unopened containers tested negative. So here we go. This almost kind of smacks of the whole, like, I don't know, PCR testing to me a little bit here. Like, what are we testing for? How valid are these tests? Did we really need to shut down all of these systems? Why are they still down? I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts?
Why are they still waiting for FDA approval? I thought this was the land of fast tracking things. Yeah.
Oh, right.
I mean,
right.
it's totally okay to fast track the jibby jabs in the name of the pandemic, or now miracle medicines to fight Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and you name it. Now we're finally going to have the cure for the common cold. You watch, right? But they want to fast track artificial intelligence controlled death machine drone fighters jets now. I mean, but no, the poor babies, they got to wait, you know. How nice is that? I didn't know about this either, really. I had to hear about this through a meme, actually, because I decided to roll up my sleeves and put on my wading boots and hop onto Facebook for a minute today. And I saw a meme. That's how I learned about it, was from a meme. That's the world we live in now. But it was a pretty funny meme. It was a baby dressed up like a little army soldier, and the meme said something like, a starving baby disguises itself as a Ukraine soldier to get itself some of the $40 billion or something like that, you know, because, you know, we're just throwing all this money into Ukraine, like money, here you go. Wait, starving American babies? Ukraine, yeah. Here's some more. How pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that meme too. That was classic, I gotta say. So here's the last data point. Nationwide, baby formula remains in short supply. During the week of starting 24 April, 40% of baby formula was out of stock in more than 11,000 stores across the country. So there you go, 40% of formula out of stock. So they've got it is like, I've seen that with eggs here, Oddman, where it's like we can only buy, you know, four cartons at a time or something like that. So there you
It's
go.
actually in Canada.
Yeah, go ahead, Infidel.
I said it's in Canada too right now. It's actually hit Canada.
That makes sense. I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
I
just. Oh, go ahead.
What'd you find, Mark?
Well,
Hello?
you know, this reminds me of the public school thing with COVID in a way. Oh no, oh my God, the public schools are going to close. That's one of the terrible consequences of COVID. And as I indicated a little while ago, bring it on. The public schools are just about as much of a problem as the mass media cartel. And so it's almost like they're marketing formula. So notice the premise that's underneath all of this. A baby can only have formula. Nothing else will do. If the formula runs out, then there are no options. That's sort of the implication here. So, okay, mother's breast milk confers much more immunity than any formula they're ever going to make. I mean, a God-given thing like mother's breast milk is, you know, the natural, healthiest thing to do for the growth and immunity of the child. And when a lot of us were little, mothers just gave us regular cow's milk or powdered milk, or, you know, juice, some water. It's almost like they're implying that there should be an addiction to, or a unjustified or completely out of whack demand for this formula.
Well,
and doesn't this, one more point, doesn't this just remind us of the conversation we had where we talked about the COVID vaccines can do no wrong, but if they make a baby seat that's just slightly unsafe, they rip it, tear it off the market. If they make a chair that you might hang your coat on and therefore hang yourself on or something, they'll whisk it off the market. And they're doing that now. They're, you know, the slightest little thing goes wrong, the company denies that its product is dangerous. They're probably lying, but nevertheless, the COVID vaccines are still, you know, sacrosanct. You can't touch those. But like Ruckus was saying, yeah, it's okay to threaten to starve kids, but it's really an empty threat if you look at it. I'm not saying there should be no formula, but what's in formula, right? Is it proprietary? Do we know what's in it? Is it like Coca-Cola with secret ingredients? Should our kids ever have been getting this Similac? Was that ever the right thing to do? I don't know the answer. I'm just asking the question. So there you go.
You're spot on there, Mark. And I did get a news break flash, whatever, from one of my stupid apps that shows me mainstream media stuff today. And it said that it was something like Mercedes is telling everybody that they should not drive their car anymore if it was built between like 2006 and 2011 because the brakes might not work. they might not work. There was no actual injuries or deaths from this issue that they're warning people about, but we have seen, I mean, major adverse effects from the big jab, right? And there's not been any pull from any of those different types of jabs, right? So there's that where it's like, you know, they're just warning people before something happened, and then we have something like the jab that's got over 50,000 an insignificant percentage of actual occurrences that's being reported, but it's still being pushed out there.
I just wanna say something here quickly. But actually, a lot of government agencies right now and doctors, they are pushing for breast milk, because there are research out there that's showing that breast milk is it's much more beneficial than formula. I would say back in a few years back, there was a big marketing campaign that was pushing for formula. But I would say a lot of this has changed right now, and a lot of doctors actually suggest women to breastfeed their babies.
That's good.
Yeah.
There are needs sometime, and I can tell you that when my son was born, he had he had pretty low blood glucose, and like the breast milk didn't come yet. So for a few days, there was no actually other option to give him to get his blood glucose back up and feed him other than formula. So there is, and it was just for a short period of time, and we stopped it, right? Because then the milk came, and so there are needs. There are needs, and there is time when we need that. But I feel like almost we're living in a freaking third world country when we're here in the US and we have to sit down and talk about baby shortage formula. I feel like we're sitting in Somalia or some kind of like third world country.
Well, it's scary because at least in terms of you, Infidel, like like that the formula is not the best thing. You want the most nutrient,
absolutely
efficient form of feeding your baby. But there's a lot of people that don't really know the difference between breast milk and formula, and that are I know a lot of people in my family and extended family that thought that formula was how you're supposed to.
To your point, absolutely.
So these people, maybe they're not the smartest bunch of the herd or whatever, but that's scary. They could be, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Like, okay, well, we'll get a soda, well, you know what I mean? Like you said, juice or milk or whatever, but like not even everybody's that smart to even do those things. Like,
well, you do what people back in the day used to do. They go get milk from other moms. That's what or get someone else to breastfeed your baby till your milk comes. That's what they used to be back in the days.
Well, they still do that. People do still do that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. That's the most viable option for getting the nutrients into the child. But it's not like everybody's in a community where that seems like okay, or that's even an option. They're just they got their stamps, their grocery store stamps that get them enough whatever to get them by, and they're going to be like, all right, well, what do I do? Okay, we got Capri Suns.
It's interesting, Spore, because like actually you see a little bit of shift like back in, I'll say a few years back, and until now there's some, as you said, some people still like doing that formula thing, but that actually like feminists were using it as actually more of a symbol of like empowerment. Like, yes, I'm working, I don't have time to breastfeed the baby, and this formula is the way to go, and there is no differences, and now we have people on the other side that's just like completely like and on those same feminist world, like they see that actually breastfeeding now is like a symbol of like feminism, and sticking it to the man just to just breastfeed. So it's interesting how what that shows, it just shows how people can be easily swayed by whatever out there, from either from marketing standpoint or from whatever propaganda is being pushed around them. But I think either way, this is what this is. It's a complete failure of our government to, number one, to respond to such thing. You knew that there is a two factories, they were shut in February. Why the heck do we have to wait till May till we figure out there were shortage when there are shortages? Why we didn't address this issue?
Yeah,
back
how
then,
come we can
right?
get all these Javelin missiles all the way to Ukraine so quickly when they need them, but we can't get this?
Why
this
we didn't go import
baby
some
food
from
out?
other country? Yeah. Why we couldn't address it? Why did we have to wait till now? And as you said, like American people right now is the last thing on this government mind. This is what this is. We are the last in the queue. This is your government.
Yeah,
We're a failed country right now. We're heading to a state of a failed country. Seriously, we're about to enter that in
That's
so
right.
many levels, in so many levels.
yeah. We threw the babies under the bus. We threw the baby out with the bathwater, didn't we, Mark?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They talk about the think tanks, Brookings, Carnegie Endowment, so many that I've covered, always talk about, the failed states of Africa, the failed states of Asia. What is a failed state, right? It doesn't necessarily mean a country with more primitive sewer or water systems or a, quote, more primitive type of housing. A failed state is a state that number one can't respond to crises, provided the crises are real and not some trumped up thing. We have to be very careful here. But if the government can't protect its borders and keep the borders secure, if it can't proactively prevent food shortages and not ever allow such a thing to happen, proactively not allow the supply chain to completely fail, although we need much shorter supply chains, and there are very practical ways of doing that, and they're trying to kind of demonize that, local gardening and all that kind of thing. But a failed state is also a country that has forgotten its constitution and doesn't operate according to how it was designed under that constitution. And then once the people through this public school system that I insist we need to get rid of forget what their constitution even is, then you really have a failed state. You might have all the trappings of technology and some luxuries and whatnot, some escapism, but a failed state is either something that just falls apart and is dysfunctional, and or it's something that's completely detached from its constitutional moorings and is just spinning out of control. And people don't know what's true anymore. They don't know what their rights are, what their immunities are. And so that's another aspect or corollary of a failed state, another type of failed state, I should say. So there you go.
Yeah, and we're 5/8 of the way there down those two paths, I would say, Mark. It's pretty sketchy right now in that regard. All right, we're gonna go to break in a minute here, but let's open the mic up. We got Oddman out. Go for it, man.
Just real quick, man, I just wanted to say to everybody on the call, but especially to Mark, I've been thinking for the last few months, because it's so clear that, Biden is not, he's probably not in control of anything, and he's kind of out of his mind. But, even with like the foreign policy, they've got all these experts from the CFR and all the Atlantic Institute, all the big shots, and they have been making the most terrible blunders possible, and just the horrible policies that's been going on that are just devastating the country economically and in other ways. It seems like to me that it's almost deliberate, that they're trying to, I mean, it's as crazy as it sounds, because we've been kind of taught, especially on the left, they almost worship government and the state is everything. But then it almost seems like it can't possibly be a mistake that they're making all these blunders. Are they trying to deliberately sabotage the government to have some other sort of system? And that's just kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good question, and that was directed to you, Mark. But I just want to say I was having a similar conversation earlier today on a different topic. I was talking to someone about the state of violence in our cities, in particular. Looking at a couple cases, we have a listener who lives in one of the blue cities out here who's had constant run-ins with various thugs in the park where everybody runs, all the local people run. And just a week or two ago, one of these people that he's had interactions with um, pulled a gun on someone, tried to rob someone in that same park. And we were looking at this guy's uh, arrest record, his felony record. He's out on 3 bonds already. Like a major drug offense, a armed robbery, or something like that. Like, the guy is clearly a psychopath and a sociopath, and is stacking up felonies. And I watch a lot of these police YouTube channels and stuff, and I'm seeing this everywhere. And people in the comments have taken to finding the person's rap sheet and their most recent arrests and laying out like how many bonds they're out on in all these cities. And it's just like, it feels like they're doing this on purpose. Like, why? And it's like the DAs and the judges, primarily DAs, judges, city councils, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe the state or the state police. This gets weird. This gets state by state, region by region. Of course, things are very wonky, as you all probably very well know. But in certain places, it feels like they are intentionally increasing the crime there. That's what it feels like to me. So I'll throw that into what Oddman was asking also, Mark, and we'll get your comments, and then everybody else is welcome to open mic it, and then we'll take a break.
Yeah, that's interesting what you just said, Hesh. Backing up a little bit to what Oddman was saying, the only thing I would say is different is that coming, or that pending, that looming new state or new system that's taking over for the system we were given has already, I'd say that's already commenced. There's already a different government in place. That this is really the ultimate reality to face. It's that whoever's running the U.S. federal government is not the American Republic at all. What you have to understand, this is my battery power is getting a little low here. I better watch it. But this is a different regime altogether. This is a private banker governance kind of system where the think tanks and the corporations are the constituents. Congress works for them. The governments work for somebody other than the people. There's just there's no escaping it. They work for an international consortium of power brokers, and the U.S. Republic, I think Ron Avery is right, has been dissolved. The basic republic we were given is just not there anymore. At the state level, there's some remnants, there's some infrastructure we can use. Thank God for the founders that they made a federal system where the states have some autonomy. So it's not lost. We're not vanquished, but I think we've been conquered. And that's not as bad as it sounds, although I know it sounds bad. But I think that we have to face up to the facts in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side of the break, I want to talk a little bit about why it is. Let's see if we can maybe qualify what we mean by, Mark, for example, you coining the term the mass media cartel, or me, for example, adapting that to one of the taglines for Boiler Room, which is learn to protect yourself from predatory media cartels, that is. I want to explore that a little bit on the other side of the break, but I'm going to go around the room real quick here and end on MindSpaceArt, because he's going to introduce a video we're going to premiere while we're on intermission. So, Oddman, you had your question answered, but I'll give it to you for any post intermission or pre-intermission words you might want to throw out there.
Oh, thanks, man. I'll be really quick. I'm reading this book about technocracy, and the Trilateral Commission comes in there a lot, and I'd never really read about them. And they were very big on technocracy. And Brzezinski, Zbigniew Brzezinski was their leader. You know, he was the co-creator, and he's got several quotes in there from, I think it's the book Between Two Ages, which I believe came out in the late 70s. And he specifically says in there, and he's known as the great strategist, that the plan for the future is public-private partnerships. And he used that exact term way back then. So that's what they've got planned for the future, and it's happening right now.
Oh man, yeah, and I will throw in on that one and note that this was issued last year, actually. But isn't it interesting that Biden tapped Brzezinski's son as Poland ambassador?
No mistake there whatsoever.
Yeah, that's not a coincidence. All right, good one, man. Good one. Are you gonna be able to hang with us for a little bit more tonight? All right,
absolutely.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk to Corey Drayton for a moment here before we go to break. Corey, over to you. We covered a lot of ground there, man. We got a full room tonight, but over to you for anything you want to throw out there before we go to break.
Yeah, man, everyone is just making such fantastic points. I mean, there's just so many different angles at play here, and so many ways you can look at the chaos, Operation Chaos, right? And I think the only thing that I really have to add into the mix, is everyone has touched on all the major points that were bouncing around my head. It's just that it's frightening to kind of step back and watch how we've been completely decoupled from our own nature as human beings. This kind of speaks to the baby formula thing. I mean, we as a species have been on this planet for 5 million years, give or take. And, certainly we got on reasonably fine before the advent of something like formula. So to see the way that this has been engendered as a panic, I think a lot of that is definitely something that's been fueled and driven by the mass media cartel that we always refer to. So you've got the decoupling and the atomization going on at the same time, because so many of these problems, these crises, and I use inverted commas when I say that, could be resolved if we just had stronger communities with the people around us. And largely what I think fuels this sense of fear and panic is the atomization, is this feeling that we're all alone and we have no community and we can't rely on each other when things get uncertain. Well, things have always been uncertain. There's never been a time in human history where anything was certain except, of course, maybe death. But apart from that, we have been able to rely on each other to get through rough times. And I don't want us to forget that at all.
Yeah, man, that's a really, really good point. It's an important point, and I take your meaning there. There are so many people out there, I'm sure, who it's like all they know is their Facebook, their device, their Netflix, their streaming services, the 5 people they talk to on the phone, maybe, and their trip to the store to get that Similac, whatever, for their baby. Maybe she lives alone. And that's the routine, there's no concept of what would I do if this resource went away, which, by the way, at this point, folks, I think our listening audience probably doesn't need to hear this, but I bet everybody knows someone who is just like, why are you not thinking that way after what we've experienced over the last couple of years? Ruckus, we've had the rug pulled out from under us so hard in so many ways since I don't know, March of 2020 here. It's just ridiculous. I'm surprised the whole planet isn't prepping right now.
Over shortages of toilet paper and stuff, right?
Yeah, everything. The kitchen sink.
I don't know. I just want to point out that this conversation, you guys were all talking, I don't know, it almost sounded pro breast milk, and I find that to be kind of obviously, clearly transphobic. Men have babies too, but unfortunately, they require the formula for their babies. How dare you? But seriously, there was M. Ostrovsky on YouTube brought the point that I guess me and Oddman should have already been screaming about, that the whole idea of order out of chaos. So yeah, the chaos is the thing. It does serve a purpose, because ultimately the proverbial they want to come forward with their solution to the problem. See, there's the Hegelian thing I've been thinking a lot about this Hegelian dialectic thing. When I was first introduced to that, I was focused more on this whole, okay, it's this 3 steps, right, or whatever. So you got the problem, you got the reaction, and the solution. And I tricked myself this whole time thinking the solution was just the end. No, this is an ever-repeating cycle. And I realize now that the problem and the solution are just like the bread in this sandwich. And I think what's the most important thing to these people really is the reaction. And I think they have boiled this down to a science where we're no longer in control of our own reactions. They're pulling the strings on all 3 of these stages now. And that's just a wild thought that I've been having floating around in my brain. But yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Yeah, well, I feel the same way, man. I feel like and we've watched this, we've watched this develop. We've watched the Hegelian cycle evolve over the last decade or so since we've been hardcore paying attention. And it has gotten more and more and more meta. Every time we got good at spotting what was going on, they got better at obfuscating it, hiding it, or twisting it, or turning it, or whatever it takes to push the right buttons. It's like the reaction in the center is exactly what it is. And it's almost like there's a magnetic force between those 2 pieces of bread and the reaction in the center. And that's the positive and negative chaos force. It's just buzzing right there in between that bread and that reaction, that problem. And oh man, what a mess. All right, Infidel Pharaoh, over to you, man. Anything you want to throw out there before we go to break?
Yeah, I just want to respond to Oddman out point about if this is deliberate. I don't think it's deliberate. I think what's happening is we have a bunch of ideologues out right now in our government and those think tanks that just have no idea about anything. They've been brainwashed through certain education to think a certain way, and they are just being puppeteered by those ideologies that are being pushed on us here as a society to destroy what this nation is. We said that long time ago that US was, the lost country that was standing there with just this idea of liberty and freedom and individualism, and really that concept of you as an individual responsible for your own decisions, you as an individual responsible for for really your own decision, as I said. So let's look at the DAs, for example, like in a lot of those all over the country. There are a lot of DAs that just progressive DAs that's being pushed by George Soros to win elections, right? Those guys believe in like failed psychology of criminal justice that is just has nothing to do with reality, and all what they are doing is pushing this failed agenda. I don't think they are pushing it by in intention to destroy the nation, but those who put them in power to destroy the nation and what we stand for. But those guys are just fucking bunch of like basically ideologues. We're completely disconnected from reality with failed ideology. Look at, like, for example, like the San Francisco DA, Puddin, what's his name? His mom is Kathy Puddin, his mom was basically like she was in prison for murdering cops and being a part of like radical gang back in the days. When that person come in office, what do you think his views is about cops and criminal justice and so all of them are coming into offices like with this crazy progressive ideology of criminal justice, and this is what you see right now. This is why they're removing bails. This is why they are letting everybody out in the streets. right? So this is what would, and the person that is pushing for this is George Soros. George Soros has been funding all those DAs. So I don't think these people are doing it intentionally. I think the people that are putting these morons in place are putting it intentionally. The people that destroyed our education system and pushed for those to take over want to destroy this nation. And we just need to snap out of it. If there is any hope, the hope is to just break it. And sadly, I don't know how to break it with majority of the current population. Not in, I wouldn't say people our age or older, right? But newer generation are already brainwashed into that system. I don't know how much it will take to brainwash these people out of this progressive ideologies, but this is the reality of it. These guys were born in these ideologies. These guys are being brain fed this ideology every day. I don't know how we can break them out of it, other than a collapse, and they see it in front of their eyes, and then they realize, oh shit, we fucked up our country. How can we go back? And sadly, you cannot go back at that point of time without another blood, a lot of blood, because that's what happens. This is the only way to get back, right? And just through history is just wars and crimes, and then people like, okay, we're gonna build again. But why do we have to get to that point? Why? Anyway, I don't want to end it a grim note, but this is just my thought about this whole point.
Yeah, well, you're right though. Once you find yourself there, when you've got 1, 2, 3 generations with various shades of propaganda, building up their worldview, and now subject to immediate propaganda based on the cybernetic feedback loops of our internet and our social medias, it's unprecedented. It's like something we've never seen before. So yeah,
it is, and now we're living in a society that is just completely emotional. Like, think about now. Let's think about this exact time of Roe versus Wade, right? We're on elections are coming. We know that Democrats are getting, slammed in this next elections, right? With all the shit that's happening, and them being in power, and the economy that's crashing. With something like this, people are even not thinking about this, because now that triggered so much more deeper emotional response in their mind, that the first thing they are going to think about, oh shit, those like crazy right wing, they're going to take the country back, and we have to fight for women's right. And no one even know what Roe versus Wade is. And also again, this is stupid thing from the right to push for shit like that, because all this what does is just division. We as a nation, we forget that we have so much in common that we need to fight for right now, because what's in line is our liberty, is our freedom, is our economy. There is so much prosperity. There is so much that we have to fight in common for before we get it divided by that stupid bullshit. What I'm saying, it's not important for people from like theological standpoint. I understand that, but this should not be the focus. There's so much more that we need to be focusing on right now and unite to fight this and take our country back. But who cares? There is Roe versus Wade, and look at the next look once this comes out, another summer of love coming, my friend. Another summer of love.
Oh yeah, it's already started. They're firebombing pro-life offices, and the White House is promoting law breaking, illegal. It's illegal to try. I forget the actual technical term, the legal term they used for it, but I believe it's intimidating a Supreme Court justice is basically what the White House is condoning, which is pretty amazing when you compare that to the way they reacted to a bunch of conservative people being let in the velvet ropes and walked into the Capitol building with some federal informants among them, dressed up ridiculously, and then called it an insurrection. and blame it on Trump for what he said. And then you look at like what Pelosi and Warren and Psaki are saying about all this that's going on with the Roe v. Wade thing. And it's just like, what is this double standard here? Like, those are actual, arguably, what Psaki and Warren and Pelosi have said are calls to violence, like by actual law, written law. Like, we don't even need to create a committee for it. You know, they could be, and they should probably be in trouble for saying things like that. But here it is. And you know, the thing with, I think the headline is all wrong with Roe v. Wade. The headline should be unprecedented leak from Supreme Court has never happened. You know, giant red flag, everybody. One of the 3 pillars of government has just leaked on itself for the first time in over 100 years, for the first time ever. I mean, that is the story here. But no, it's the old wedge. It's the old stupid wedge of my rights and my body. And how dare they come back with my body, my choice after everything that they've put so many people through. I'm sorry. That pisses me off. There are people that have ended their lives. There are people that are now drug addicts. There are people who are gone. There are people who have lost their careers over trying to say my body, my choice during 2020, during 2021 in particular, and up to now. So, you know, to bring that old trope back, there's a great meme where there's a girl, I think it was by our buddy Made by Jim Bob. There's this girl saying, "Oh, no man will tell me what to do," and then Fauci's in there in picture of Fauci, you know, giving side eye right next to her. And my God. I know you guys all see this. I know this must frustrate you, and I can tell you what, it frustrates the hell out of me.
I'll weigh in a little bit here. American Free Press, dare I say, we just ran 2 articles, one that I wrote where I analyzed the actual document that Samuel Alito wrote, the Supreme Court Justice. And here's the front page of it right here. And Pat Buchanan, his column runs in American Free Press, and he asked the same question. What is this leak? Where did it come from? This is completely unprecedented. So on the one hand, the mass media cartel won't give you a straight dosage of what Samuel Alito actually wrote, which was my contribution, which is actually very intelligent. He's quite the legal mind, probably underrated in a lot of ways. And he explains the tyranny and illegitimacy of Roe. And on the other hand, Buchanan chimes in about the oddness of the whole scenario, the leak when there absolutely shouldn't have been a leak. He calls it possible sabotage, a saboteur type thing. So there's a lot of aspects to this, but what the media will give us is distortion, division, misdirection, rather than a straight analysis of what's happening and then some of the anomalies that need to be explained. See, so once again, the media is just kicking sand in the air for the worst possible outcomes. So there you go.
There you go.
That's all I got for now on that.
No, I'm thank you, Mark. Thanks for weighing in on that, because that's really been bothering me lately. I've kind of been avoiding this topic because it's like everyone wants to leapfrog over the main story here, which is we just lost another portion of one of the balances of power. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that was in a media and or intel and or Pentagon and or Democrat Party intentional leak. Like, that wasn't, you know what I mean? They know who leaked it. They know dang well who leaked it. Do you think they're going to treat that person like they treat Assange? Or are they going to just keep going to work? That's what I want to know. Because, I mean, that's pretty symbolic of a big piece of our country just having a chunk taken out of it, you know, right there. Not that the Supreme Court was doing a fantastic job already anyways, but now we all have to be very, very dubious. Is this going to become a trend? Is this going to become a thing? Are they going to keep leaking stuff out of there so that extremist activists on the right and the left can go out and be mad at each other? I mean, it's like power politics gladiatorial arena at this point. They're just baiting people, baiting NPCs into the mix here. Let me go over to MindSpaceArt real quick here. MindSpace, we got a new video we're gonna air this week during the intermission here. So I'll give it over to you for anything you want to add to what has been said here, and then take us into break.
Yeah, you guys have spoken on so many important things, and what came to my mind was a discussion that Oddman and I had about a week ago, maybe a little bit longer, and it was sort of a meditation on where has America been, where are we going as a populace, and something that connects really to a lot of what you guys have said is something that we spoke on in that talk, which was about the infantilization of the American public. We're not going to be able to govern ourselves. We're not going to be free. We're not going to maintain our liberties if we are not a population of grown, responsible adults that enact their own agency and can cooperate. Okay, those values have been lost. They have been supplanted. And it is due to this atomization, which Wandering Wolf was speaking on there. So my gripe, or rather, I think something that we really need to recognize, is that the American public has to grow up. That is the chance that we have at rescuing our country. And we do have a lot to be thankful for. The American public, I think, to a large degree, does not have gratitude for what we have. We see through a lens darkly. We don't understand really what we have in comparison to other places in the world. And we've become very decadent, and we are increasingly a very morally bankrupt society. Well, we don't have a functional country in the absence of a moral people, right? So that comes down to the individual level, and people are not being encouraged to go within, change their own heart, recognize where they're wrong, where they believe lies. And so they enable all of this evil. They enable the gangsterism of this so-called government that is increasingly just moving into this might makes right type of situation and scenario. But that's, again, because the crowd, the lonely crowd, if you will, has refused to learn those lessons that are necessary for being vital and maintaining your own independence, which is that you have to take up the responsibility not only of yourself, but of the people in your environment. And so there's that causal factor there that cannot be ignored. And it is a turning away, right? It's a turning away. We've been worked into this condition over time. We've got multiple generations which have abdicated a sense of responsibility. And yes, there's the symbiotic parasitic relationship between those who are conquering us and are brainwashing us, but there's also a degree of willingness on the part of the public, and that cannot be overstated. That's a very important thing that needs to be recognized, because if we don't recognize that, we're retreating into this lie, which is that we can do nothing. We can do nothing to change this situation. We can do nothing to better our circumstances. We can't save our country. We'll just give it all up. Well, that hopelessness, that despair comes from the fact that a lot of us, we just lack basic life skills that go outside of the paradigm of what we have been given in this Stalinistic system where you just think everything is about a career, you think it's about just following some path for money. That's the biggest lie ever. And it's the values in the social domain, a social progress that's real, aka, hey, having communication skills, putting your faith and your trust in your countrymen and building systems that are parallel to what is this metastasizing structure of evil, which is obviously seeking to stamp out all of any individuality, any creativity, any sense of the expansive nature of what a conscious human being is capable of, right? And that segues into the video that we're going to premiere here on the break, because we've been bringing up and mentioning Alan Moore a lot over the past few broadcasts, which it's incidental, but he's such an interesting character, a sort of modern shaman. And he's got a lot of wise things that he says about creativity, ingenuity, what he calls, magic. And I think that it really kind of speaks to, the heart of the matter, as opposed to just the left brain nature of facts and logic and everything else, and how when we tap into what is within, when we tap into the heart, we can bring something forth which is greater than all of the, the dictates that we're being told we have to abide by. And it is that more real, true, natural human element. So I hope that you guys enjoy this video presentation. Hopefully the audio comes out good. So we'll see about that.
All right. Thank you, MindSpaceArt. Everybody be sure and go to the Alternate Current Radio YouTube channel, the Alternate Current Radio, actually the Boiler Room, Rockfin. We are Boiler Room on Rockfin. Shout out to all the Rockfin listeners. And thank you, Conrad. We got a tip in the tip jar over there earlier from Conrad. I haven't been back in there. So sorry if I'm missing some chats. Got a lot of chats going tonight. Good to see Blue and G-Dub and John and High on Fire 88 and Ostrovsky and everybody in the Discord, of course. Thanks for hanging out with us while we're live tonight. Here you go. We're going to go on a short break, everybody. Let me get this queued up properly for everybody here. Here we go. Be right back.
It's a funny thing. But as creators, we have a sense that we are at best entertainers. We think that we're lucky if we have a job, whereas in fact, we were once regarded as beings of incredible power, because not everybody could use their imagination. And the ones who could were seen in the bardic tradition of magic as being powerful sorcerers. This was purely because of the way that they moved words around and the way that they used words to put ideas into people's heads. And I can't help thinking that if people understood that art was magic and that magic was art, then I think that the current occult scene, such as it is, which is to my mind fairly moribund, would suddenly have a purpose. It would be able to produce works of art that would be an indication of the magical territories that it claims to have visited. I mean, one of my favourite artist magicians is Austin Osman Spare, who was a Brixton visionary who did fabulous automatic drawings that are, as near as damn it, the closest that you're going to get to somebody entering one of these magical spaces and taking a photograph. Now, that isn't actually possible, but if you've got a wonderful artist who can see these things inside their minds, inside the magical space of their imagination, and can then put them down on paper for the rest of us to see, then that is a wonderful combination. And I think that if all of occult societies were to actually take that on board, to decide that their output from now on would be seen as magical, yes, but magical in terms of it being artistic. I think that would be a huge benefit to occult society such as it is. I also think it would be an immense benefit to contemporary art, which, again, to my mind, seems largely, I'm speaking here about contemporary British art, or at least some of the most visible exponents of it, but it seems to be largely vacuous and pointless. It's conceptual art, but not in any important sense. They're not even properly concepts. They're kind of advertising ideas. They're the kind of things whereby, yes, it's conceptual art. It's like a kind of a joke. And once you've got the joke, there is no point in ever looking at that piece of work ever again. Which is not what art is for, really. Art is meant to endure. So the contemporary art scene, at least here in England, seems to me to be fairly bankrupt. If these creators weren't thinking about the immense sums of money that they were likely to get from their unmade beds or pickled sharks, then they might be instead connecting with something which is much stronger, much purer, much truer, which is the spiritual essence, if you like, of magic, which has run through so much of the art field that the two seem to go together hand in hand. I mean, all of the surrealists were obsessed with magic and alchemy and were taking a lot of their images from those sources. Even artists like Mondrian was a theosophist, that all of those rectangles were based upon philosophical concepts. People like Picasso, surprisingly modern artists, as well as people like William Blake and the more obviously occult directed artists of the past. So, in a sense, art and magic have always gone hand in hand. And I think that if people understood that, it could really enrich our culture. Not only our occult culture, but our traditional art scene. It would give people's work some soul in a very real sense.
All right, nice one. Give me a moment here to reset my recordings. Everybody, we'll come back with a little bit more. Stand by. We'll be right back at you with some more Boiler Room.
Kill me again, Mr. Bartender, please. I need a shot and I'm begging on my knees. The way to fight is one battle at a time. You may have won today, but I'll see you at the finish line. All is fair in love and war. You pull no brakes when you're riding to the core. All is fair in love and war. You best be aware, 'cause all is fair.
All right, everybody. We'll be coming back shortly here. I got my recordings re-kicked in here for the second segment of the show. If you're out there watching live tonight, thank you for being here with us. You can find us on the web at alternatecurrentradio.com. You can find the Boiler Room podcast version on all good podcasting applications. Once again, thanks for hanging out if you are among our live audience, and thanks for checking it out if you're out there in the podcast audience or the restream audiences on the YouTubes and the Rock Fins. Thanks for hanging out tonight. I'm your host, Hesher. I'm joined by Oddman out, Corey Drayton, aka Wandering Wolf, Ruckus, Mark Anderson, Infidel, Pharaoh, MindSpaceArt, Lovely Spore, and we'll be right back with you in a moment here. Get a snap in there for audio sync later. All right, we'll be right back.
Coming up next, more thought crimes from the Social Rejects Club on the Boiler Room here on Alternate Current Radio.
All right. Welcome back to the Boiler Room, everybody. Welcome back. It is May the 12th for another 59 minutes for me, at least. And you're listening to the Boiler Room at alternatecurrentradio.com. I want to thank you for joining us for this live, unscripted show. We have a full turnout of social reject representatives here, a full complement of thought criminals hanging out tonight for the Boiler Room. Man, we trudged through. I was going to do an hour. I think we did 2 hours in that first segment there. So thanks, guys, for the amazing overtime. It's a pleasure speaking with this group of people right here, and of course, all you people out there in the audience. I'm doing my best to kind of glance at the chats when I can, but yeah, let's get back into it and see who's with us and who's not. If anyone's still on break, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll let everybody skid on back into the Boiler Room here as they please. I will remind everybody that alternatecurrentradio.com and the Boiler Room, we are in the middle of our spring donation cycle right now. And that wonderful piece of video art that you just saw there during the intermission was from MindSpaceArt, host of Soul Purpose, over here at alternatecurrentradio.com. And that's a little gift for you folks out there, for those of you that chipped in for our Shillin' for Sanity spring donation drive. That's right, we are shilling in the springtime for sanity, for our sanity and your sanity. I know that we need you, and I get messages from you saying that you appreciate and need us. So, hey, we got a little value for value exchange here going on, and we do need our audience's help in getting us to the end of the year as we redevelop and rebuild and reimagine what alternate current radio can be in a media environment that has been utterly taken over, utterly wrecked and destroyed, and is doing its damnedest, its dangdest to turn us all against each other, which we do not want to see. So before I get a little bit further down that rabbit hole there, let me just go back over to MindSpaceArt real quick here. MindSpace, great edit there. Really good job on that one. We'll post that around. Everybody, all the listeners out there, please share that on your social medias. I think everybody will enjoy that. Hold up.
Oh,
there we go.
Okay. Am I here? All right.
You're good. Go for it, man.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. It's always an honor to be able to share what I can contribute, with with the editing and putting a video like that together, and that we can host that here. I think that we have a lot going for us at the Alternate Current Radio, and absolutely we do appreciate when people support us, because we're doing our darndest over here to really make it happen. And I know that this network can go very far, much further, even than we already are, just with that extra added bit of support. So there's always going to be more stuff to come, and I just want to thank you again. So we'll have that video posted up on the website and also on the YouTube hopefully soon, so that you guys can hear it fully with the audio, because it doesn't come across fully in the stream. But I think you get a bit of more of a high fidelity experience if you view it where it's purely being hosted.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, MindSpaceArt. We'll have that up at alternatecurrentradio.com soonest. It'll be up there very soon. And yeah, that was awesome. All right, let's see here. Looks like mostly everybody is back. Let's see here. Ruckus, welcome back to the Boiler Room, man.
Thanks for having me back. That was a great video, MindSpaceArt, as per usual. And yes, please share that on your social medias, as well as we've been trying to breathe some life into our social media. So our official Facebook page and Twitters and whatnot. So make sure you're following us there. You can find the official links to all of our social media pages on the website at alternatecurrentradio.com. But I've been personally helping them with some stuff on Facebook. So make sure you guys go to the pages and the groups and share those around. Click a like, leave a comment. Believe it or not, all of these things make a huge difference. So, and it doesn't even cost you any money, except of course it costs you your soul having to use Facebook. But just kidding. But thanks for having me back on. I'm getting a little long-winded here, so I'm gonna chug along with some of my coffee and my official Daily Ruckus mug, where if you want one of those too, folks, you can find out where to get that also at the website.
Absolutely. alternatecurrentradio.com/support if you're interested in helping us make those next marks. Big thanks to Eric and Conrad today, again, over in the Rockfin, and a couple people came through on the swear jar via PayPal. So thank you to you folks also. Let's see here. Infidel Pharaoh, are you back with us?
I am. Sorry, I had to go do some dead duty.
Oh, no problem. You are just in time. You got dad duty done during the break, and you're back just in time to rock and roll.
Good.
All right. Welcome back, man. All right. Oddman, welcome back to the show, dude. What's new in the Oddcast this week? Last night, folks, by the way, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Central, we air the latest or a classic or a recent episode from all the shows on alternatecurrentradio.com. Last night was the Oddcast night, and I did it to the audience, dude. I gave it to them, man. I played the Whose War Is It Anyways series pretty much front to back. I think I did all 5 episodes. So you had the ACR 24/7 stream by the Short and Curlies for the majority of the night last night, man.
Oh, wow, man, that's an honor. Thank you so much. Yeah. So this week, tomorrow, I've got a show dropping. It is the guy Charles Savoy, who's been with me several times from Texas. He's been looking into this group, the Pilgrim Society, since the 70s. So they're connected to the Council on Foreign Relations, Chatham House, and all those others. And on this one, he kind of goes back to the start and just kind of tells you the guys who kind of started the thing and all the organizations and industries that they were involved in. And nearly every one of them, it's just multiple organizations and NGOs and banks and just different things like that. So that's what you got coming. And I've actually got one I just put in the Patreon that's I did a dive on Russia, just kind of trying to look into, the whole question of that we kind of talk about in the alt media. Are they or were they in on this whole Great Reset / Agenda 21? And I just kind of look at some information and tell people to make up their own minds about that. So that's what I got going on.
All right. Looking forward to checking that one out. That is a hot potato in the alt and independent media sphere for sure. You're a brave man for taking it on. It'll be fun to watch the comment threads and all that stuff on that. So everybody be sure on Wednesdays and come in and hang out 8 p.m. Central. So that would be 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 Central, 9 Eastern is when we are usually opening up that chat room for premieres. So yes. And of course, Tuesdays is Maps and Fridays is Sole Purpose with MindSpaceArt, who's here with us tonight. And every time that there is a daily Ruckus to release, that'll be on generally after one of those premieres. So come join us, come hang out. The hosts of the shows are quite often there and loving to hang out with the listeners. We were hanging out with Sumo the other night during the Mystical American Patriot Society premiere, and it's a great time. So you can meet some of the hosts, meet some of us, and some of the other listeners if you want to join our Discord and come in and hang out on those evenings. All right. And I highly recommend, if you missed that Whose War Is It Anyways series, that you check it out. It's up at the website, alternatecurrentradio.com. Wandering Wolf, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing? You hanging in there? You with us still?
I am. I'm glad I made it back in time. I was outside dealing with a little bit of a canine situation, but all is well. And I before the break, did I hear Alan Moore's name mentioned? I've been a little behind the loop lately. Well, for anyone out there who's interested in comic books, I'm a massive fan myself. And if you like the work of Alan Moore, I'd also recommend the work of Grant Morrison, particularly the series called The Invisibles. That is an absolutely fantastic series that delves into a lot of the kinds of topics and ideas about the nature of reality and information that we talk about on this show. So I just thought I'd throw that out to the listening audience tonight.
All right, nice. A custom suggestion for those of you out there of the comic persuasion. I'm going to check that out. I saw MindSpaceArt jotting that down there. Right on. All right, Mark Anderson, the Truth Hound. Welcome back to the show. Did you enjoy your intermission? Did you have a good break?
Let's unmute the mic. Yeah, I had a little snack there. I did. I can hang on a little bit longer, not terribly longer. Lots of things going on. As I said, I wrote about an actual clear analysis of what Samuel Alito actually wrote in that Supreme Court Roe v. Wade thing. But I've also been working, and we recorded this recently, Hesh. I've been working on the fact that Texas is licensing weather modification. The Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation is getting applications for cloud seeding, covering millions of acres, and I just started following that as well. And so that's getting really interesting. I'll be talking to a lot of regulatory agencies and talking to, if I can, applicants that are wanting to cloud seed. And as you know, Hesh, you and I asked the question on a show that I did with you when I was in Arizona, with all these wildfires going on, why is there no talk of modifying the weather, making rain artificially? AKA cloud seeding. Can it be tried? Should it be tried? It's done all the time. And so I want to take the weather modification topic out of the realm of too much speculation and nail it down with the regulated applications that are going on by companies that want to go out and tangibly try and alter the weather. It's happening a lot, but your weathermen on TV will act like all the weather is just the impersonal, inexorable forces of nature. They don't ever tell you that a given rainstorm or period of rain or trend of rain might have been caused by human intervention. And as I mentioned on your that solo show I did with you, Hesh, when I was in Arizona, there's in the Mideast and Abu Dhabi, there's other form of weather modification, ion particles, negative particles that are put into the air through arrays of different towers. This is all, on the record in terms of applications for licensing and things like that, and newspaper notices giving public notice of cloud seeding, but no one seems to see it. And it's one of those things hidden in plain sight. So basically, what I'm trying to do through American Free Press, through RBN and other outlets, is demystify weather modification, bring it down to earth, if you will, and trace the licensing, and get this real, get this out of the, are those chemtrails or not? Oh, those aren't, those are just contrails, and that whole speculative thing. I think once we look at cloud seeding and get the, who's applying for licenses to do that, the next step would be who's spraying the aerosols, who's putting all these aerosols in the air, what are these substances? And so that's kind of a trend of mine among several.
Yeah, absolutely. And that interview that you and I did is up at alternatecurrentradio.com, and it's in our podcast stream. It's also on the YouTube and the Rockfin channels, so everybody can go check that out. Just go to the website, though. You'll have access to everything from there. Go to the show post. There'll be a video embed, audio embed, all the reference links. And yeah, we'd love to see everybody's comments. We got a number of comments on that one already, Mark, on the YouTube and on the Rockfin. There's some definitely some intelligent people out there that are enjoying the conversation. And I guest hosted for you last week, and you had a really intelligent caller call in to talk about the topic. So yeah, it's a hot topic, and I think that we made a really good argument. We made a really valid set of points last time for what's going on there. I think we're to the point now where we can say goodbye to the whole, it's you guys are just conspiracy theory. That's just normal plain activity up there. Then what are all these agreements going out right now? What are all these contracts that are being signed?
Exactly. There you go.
They're there. So yeah, we'll link that on the show page for everybody. All right. Well, I've blabbed enough tonight. Does anybody in here have any other hot topics burning a hole in their pocket that they want to throw out there?
I want to bring up, before we move too far away from the conversation about the climate change thing or whatever, the weather modification. I'm sorry. There's, for the last week or so, there's been some serious wildfires or fires here in New Mexico, towns and stuff being evacuated and everything. It's been pretty crazy. But just 1 or 2 days ago, the local news was reporting on them using cloud seeding technology here locally to make it rain to try to help fight the fires.
Okay.
There you
Good
go.
deal.
I'll find some links for you, Mark, and send it to you. Okay.
Please do. That's very good. If the message is getting through, or already was, whatever the case, that's great. When I talked to the Texas people, they seemed kind of like a deer in headlights about that angle. Although I did find a Arizona group that ironically had most of its work going on outside of Arizona, but they at least were willing to acknowledge, yeah, maybe that should be tried. So there can be a lot of good things that come out of it, not just revealing these nefarious weather modification schemes that might be happening, but encouraging good policy, encouraging the proper use of this technology. There's nothing inherently wrong with modifying the weather necessarily, as long as there's a honorable and laudable goal in mind, and that can be part of the solution. Then by all means, let's try it, right? But we don't want to have a bunch of secretive weather modification where we don't know that the trends going on have much more of a man-made imprint on them. There's a huge disclosure problem here. If people knew about this, then they could say, well, let's use it for the right ends, but let's not misuse it, and let's not use it for secret experiments in the atmosphere, the troposphere, and so on, which is part of the air we breathe. So a lot of good can come out of this, and I'm really glad to hear what you just said. So I'll look forward to those links. So great.
And I'm glad what you said, because I was thinking the same thing. That's the other reason they keep it hidden from everybody, is because suddenly people would get wise and be like, well, hold on a second, we could use this to solve our problems. And the elites that wield this power are like, all right, if we have, they don't want to use it for good, but we need to look at the opportunity, like you said, to encourage that, because clearly it's, the technology and the possibilities are out there. Plus beyond, plus it's 2022. God only knows what other technologies are available that aren't being used for the benefit of humankind. And it's just disgusting.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, totally, man. I would appreciate some full disclosure on hidden technology, at least within reason. Maybe within reason. I suppose a government could have some national security involved there. I'm willing to accept that, but at the same time, who's defining what national security is anymore? I mean, they're just redefining everything. Do we even have a nation? I mean, we've got this government, this disinformation bureau coming up with the karaoke clown woman. It's just all falling apart. It doesn't seem to make sense anymore. I'll give a shout out to Patrick Henningsen from 21stcenturywire.com. I was guesting on his show today. That was an interesting talk, and we were discussing this. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Where is that? Let's see here, Patrick, and he sent me this this article, and it's just like they're basically saying that they want to use software side, like applications and artificial intelligence aspects in your chat boxes to stop you from promoting disinformation. I mean, it's bad enough that they're shadow banning people, they're taking people off of their different platforms and stuff, but now they're talking about, just generally speaking, getting to the point where they're in your DMs. Basically, the government, this was in the EU, they want to be in your DMs and make sure you're not doing any mean speak or misdis and malinformation and that kind of stuff. So I had an interesting conversation with Patrick this morning on TNT radio about that. That'll be up at the website also. But yeah, it's really interesting to see just where this is all going. Who defines it? I mean, I guess that's why I bring it up. Who's defining what is mis and disinformation? Do we trust them? Well, I think the answer for everyone in this room is probably not. And for 90% of the people listening to this podcast, probably not. Maybe even some resounding hell no's. Hell no. All right. What about you, Wandering Wolf, man? You got anything, man? Fair game. Anything you want to throw in tonight? Anything been bugging you? Any more media tips for us?
Yeah, I guess the only thing is, and this kind of goes back to the conversation we were having before the break about the Hegelian dialectic. It's something I was thinking about just back to my days in film school and how the Hegelian dialectic was taught to us then. So the way that we always refer to it here on the show is problem, reaction, solution. And the way it's taught in film school or most art schools is thesis plus antithesis equals synthesis. And so It's interesting to kind of think that you have this kind of two faces of the Hegelian dialectic that are both operating at exactly the same time. And one face being fear, trauma, and reactivity mining in an atomized population, which we often talk about, and the other presenting as the epistemological dichotomania of two sides who are diametrically imposed in every single way. And the synthesis is the further fracturing of absolutely everything, our understanding about everything, our institutions, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to offer that into the discussion, that when we talk about the Hegelian dialectic, we have to also recognize that it's almost like the two-faced Roman god Janus operating right before our eyes. That's really all I had.
Yeah, man, that's a really good point. And I think that's probably the perfect segue into this right here. So this I got a tweet thread I want to read you guys. I want to go through this with you guys. Someone sent me this. One of my colleagues sent me this. I think it might have been Miles, but I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. But anyways, this is someone I follow on Twitter, and let's see here. So you're gonna hear there's I'm kind of stumbling over this because I want to make sure I cover it all, but it's kind of big. It's a little bit to unpack. It's quite the Twitter thread, but let me first play this clip right here. You're gonna love this one, Oddman. You are gonna love this clip. Let me bring it on over into the screen here so everybody can see it. So I'm gonna read you this thread off Caitlin Johnstone's Twitter feed here, because she has put together a thread here that is full of stuff that we've been looking at and saying for years. You know, definitely a fellow traveler here on the Twitter, someone else who's paying attention. And let me just run through some of this stuff with you, but let's start it right here. Empire managers just openly admitting that they support propagandizing their subjects. First part of this thread here, self-described chief propagandist Richard Stengel of the U.S. State Department and Time Magazine telling the CFR.org crowd that he supports propagandizing Americans. Let's check it out.
So you'll be the last question, but I just want to weigh in on that for 1 second. So there's another word for master narratives. It's called history. Basically, every country creates their own narrative story. And you know, my old job at the State Department was what people used to joke as the chief propagandist job. We haven't talked about propaganda. Propaganda, I'm not against propaganda. Every country does it, and they have to do it to their own population. And I don't necessarily think it's that awful. And this idea of a news cartel. I mean, I was editor of Time in 2012 during that election, and I remember, you know, you're competing against cartels and everybody. I remember being on a panel with the then editor of the New York Times, who said, it's really hard to break through these days. This is the editor of the New York Times saying it's hard to break through. I wanted to jump off the platform. Like, what's it like for the rest of everybody? So, I mean, there are cartels, but cartels don't have hegemony like they used to. The gentleman right there, last question.
I don't think you want to address an issue in terms of understanding what happened in the world. Because what is happening in America is what the United States flipped on the global south and in the third world, which we live with for many, many years in terms of a master narrative that was and still is propaganda.
You know what? I hate last questions. Don't you? I usually just want to end something before the last question. But at any rate, I want to thank this fantastic panel here today. And I do want to say, I actually think, I mean, the talk about optimism, I mean, the optimism is all of you there figuring out how to teach your students about this and using some of the techniques and some of the sources that we've talked about here today. And I hope you're successful. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Gnarly, right?
That was pretty clear cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
wasn't it? I mean, just in the I'm sorry. Who is that gentleman?
That is his name is Richard Stengel, political analyst at MSNBC, former Secretary of State in Obama admin and former editor at Time Magazine, and CEO of the National Constitution Center Mandelaographer. I went a little far down his bio there, too far. But the big, he used to be U.S. State Department and Time Magazine, and he's telling the CFR crowd this stuff.
Okay, so he's in multiple concentric circles, all meeting in the middle, aka, propaganda agent there. And apparently propaganda isn't bad, therefore let us propagandize you constantly. And then when the man puts a point to, ask the question, follow up, sort of make an accusation, basically, the guy can do nothing but just bald-faced dismiss it. And this is owing to the way in which these people take criticism generally. They don't. They don't, unless they can sugarcoat it and, make something out of it that, like he was saying at first, saying, oh, it's really not that bad. We're doing it, but it's kind of cool. But the tone of the man who was asking the question was, pretty accusatory, and he was, sort of forceful about it. And at that point, that's when they get scared, because they don't want to have answer any moral questions. They don't want to have to answer to the discontent or just the moral question of what they're involved in.
Right. Amazing. Mark, what do you think about that? That was pretty crazy, because that guy came in and he questioned him. He said, okay, what about the master narrative of America? Right. So like Stengel's basically talking about needing to control, certain narratives. He makes it a little shadowy and cool sounding, but then this guy's like, well, wait a minute, what about the whole master narrative there? And just got shut down.
Yeah, a typical think tank situation there. I've seen and been to many of them. What's remarkable about the CFR and a lot of these think tanks is, while there are some bright people in some positions behind some of their ideas and concepts, you also find that they are by no means the brightest bulb in the lamp shop, and in fact, they're really kind of submental in a way. Stengel's basically an idiot. I mean, let's just say it flat out. He has no particular talent. He's just somebody's shoe-in. He's some little princeling from somebody's bloodline, and he's given a cushy job. He has no really redeeming qualities of any kind, certainly no profound insights. The guy couldn't outwit a used tea bag, okay? This is the thing, is you have a lot of savants in these in these positions like this. They're people of no particular talent with really nothing to say. They're just control freaks who are there by virtue of who they are, or who their parents are, or what money line or money stream they're in, or bloodline. That's what it is. It's just a club, and they really have no real useful ideas anyway. But it's interesting, though, that the people like him have been in all these multiple positions, and that's fairly typical, where your think tankers are also former Time Magazine or Newsweek or the Atlantic magazine, and then they were in a government position at one time, and then they're in a think tank. So there's this revolving door between the think tanks, the mass media cartel, and the government. But they're not really all that separate of institutions. They're really all parts of one larger machine. And so this guy is just some mid-level engineer in the mass media cartel, with his oar in the waters of the think tanks and his oar in the waters of government, which are all basically the same waters, just at different levels or different aspects. And it's interesting also, I'll just mention this as an interesting side note. Another story I just did for AFP is following the voter GA group in Georgia that's really done the best citizen watchdog work to expose the fact that, yes, there really is election fraud, and a very serious ongoing election fraud through the manipulation of the vote counting machines by the big three companies, ES&S, Hart, InterCivic, and Dominion. But here's another example of that. The state of Georgia, through the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, just got done farming out the entire voter registration list of the state of Georgia to a private company, which now owns the voter registration list and is in control of it. And that company is Salesforce, whose chief is Mark Benioff, Benioff. And get this, Mark Benioff owns Time Magazine. The owner of Time Magazine's company, Salesforce, is in control of the state of Georgia's voter registration list as we speak.
Everybody, hold on to what he just said. Hold that in the back of your head, because this tweet thread goes on and it's going to circle back to something tangential to that. So stand by. All right. Oddman out. Do you want to jump in here? I know you probably have your boxing gloves on when you see the CFR meeting bust out.
I mean, it's pretty interesting when they actually give away their secrets, and actually admit the truth that especially about the propaganda, because we know it's going on all the time. And, we haven't heard people actually be honest about that in so long, and they still go by the Edward Bernays playbook. But I'll just say quickly, like with Time Life, or Time Magazine, I think it goes all the way back to Henry Luce, who was early Council on Foreign Relations member and a Skull and Bones member, by the way. And he owned Time Life, Fortune Magazine, a bunch of different ones, a bunch of the really big magazines. So no, apparently nothing has changed with that whole group.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's just amazing. This revolving door that we're talking about here, it reminds me so much of the revolving door in the medical industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industrial complex, and the jab complex, the insurance, and the FDA. All these people are cycling through boards, and lobbyists too. All of them have lobbyists attached to them. What about you, Wandering Wolf, man? You want to throw in there before I go a little bit further down this thread? I'm gonna go light speed down the next part of this thread so that we can kind of look at it holistically. But I wanted to get everybody's take with that piece, because that's a little bit staggering.
Yeah, absolutely. It was staggering. What I found myself initially thinking was he's really oversimplifying history. He's boiling it down to this idea, this dangerous postmodern myth that history is nothing more than a narrative. And I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if he's just an idiot, as was suggested earlier. But, this is definitely something that I've heard before by postmodernists and deconstructionists. If you really think about what history is and the progression of information throughout human history, you have a long oral tradition of the myth of the tribe being passed down by an elder or a priest or someone in the tribe whose job is to maintain the integrity of a specific myth that is told to the members of the tribe, and who believe that that story has never changed, and it's only been passed from priest to priest, and it's always been preserved as exactly how it's being told every time it's being told. And we've progressed from that to scribes writing down and recording events, and that being presented as a history for a select few, to this age of mass media where ostensibly everyone is supposed to have access to the same information. So the narrative, I don't know if this is the narrative that he's referring to, but the idea that there's a narrative that is being projected onto information that we are having dispensed to us is one thing. But history in and of itself contains a number of different narratives and a number of different perspectives. And that shows up in how statistics and reports are captured or interpreted. That shows up in the literature, the drama, the art, the media, the cinema, whatever a civilization produces. And we're in an age now where there are, if there's 350 million people in this country alone, there's 350 million individual narratives that could be applied to any given piece of data or information. So this idea that there's a master narrative that drives a nation's sense of itself is false, ridiculous, and dangerous. And that's really what I find kind of turns my stomach the most in that clip.
Yeah, it's insulting, man. I mean, look at just bugger history for a second and look at right now. Like, look at just how, look at us. We're like 3 hours into a discussion here tonight, and it's super nuanced, and we're looking at different perspectives. Everybody's polarized. There's this amazing polarization like I've never experienced before, where there are just massive clods of people, power polarized over power politic talking points, and literal CIA talking points, and corporate talking points, and insurance company talking points, and they don't know it because they're candy coated in all kinds of bullshit. They're candy coated in wokeism for some people. They're candy coated in flags for other people. They're candy coated in genitals for some people, candy coated in whatever. They got everybody's flavor to candy coat it, but what it is it's dangerous, toxic propaganda that is meant to polarize all of us. And as Caitlin Johnson points out, we'll go a little bit further down that concept, and I'll just kind of blast through them here. Number 2, U.S. officials are telling the press that they're literally just lying to the public about Russia to win an information war against Putin. And there's an entire write-up about that linked there. So everybody, you're going to have to go through this thread yourself because we just don't have time to unpack every single one here. This is one of her own Substack articles here, but she has a lot of evidence, and a lot of it is stuff that we've looked at in the boiler room that we've noticed over the years here, where for example, you'll find she's got video examples of the U.S. trying to pass off government assertions as evidence leading towards action, geopolitical action, military action, sanctions, things like this that are affecting us, that are making it so there's no baby formula on the counter, or that we have $5-6 gas. All right, we have plenty. You regular, I don't need to go through the examples. You regular listeners know they're easy to find in the media, and they happen during Trump's administration too. They happen during every administration, but it's just getting worse and worse. And now they don't even bother to tell us that it's a narrative, right? It's a narrative, as demonstrated in number 1 there. Okay, no, this next bullet point here. Department of Homeland Security setting up a literal ministry of truth in the name of fighting disinformation. We spent the entire last show covering that. I think most everybody's onto that. What's going on there? Next bullet point. The Atlantic Council think tanker writing in Defense One owned by the Atlantic's David Bradley, explaining why the empire needs a, quote, NATO for InfoWar, end quote, in order to fight wrongthink around the world. The Atlantic Council is essentially NATO's think tank. This is something that we all know, at least in this room, and many of our listeners. This was published at defense1.com back in 2018. You got to check it out. You got to read it. And then, of course, there is the Smith-Mundt Act, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. There's always that. Okay, that's when it was made legal to propagandize to us. And then there was the the Educating Against Misinformation and Disinformation Act, which protects Americans from Russian propaganda using re-education and propaganda. Here's a little piece from that. This is from Representative Don Bayer, Democrat out of Virginia. On Tuesday, introduced legislation to combat Russian misinformation and educate Americans on how to properly seek out information about Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. The Educating Against Misinformation and Disinformation Act would establish a commission to fight misinformation and promote media literacy, according to a news release. Russian misinformation before and during their invasion of Ukraine is shining a spotlight on the urgent need to defend our country against a threat posed by these malign influence operations. The act is in response to the Russian invasion, but would help address the larger problem of misinformation in the U.S., which took center stage during COVID-19 pandemic. According to the bill, the new commission would report annually on the status of education regarding the general issue of misinformation and disinformation in the U.S. All right, so we got that. And the next piece in the puzzle here, it's like we've got the cork board on the wall, you guys, and we've got the little push pins and the strings going between them, like that crazy meme guy from Always Sunny. All right, here we go. Here's another one, though. This is great. The U.S. intelligence cartel just openly running the media now. All right. Nowadays, the CIA collaboration happens right out in the open, and people are too propagandized to even recognize this as scandalous. Immensely influential outlets like the New York Times uncritically pass on CIA disinfo, which is then spun as fact by cable news pundits. The sole owner of the Washington Post is a CIA contractor, and the WAPO has never once disclosed this conflict of interest when reporting on U.S. intelligence agencies per standard journalistic protocol. Mass media outlets now openly employ intelligence agency veterans like John Brennan, James Clapper, Chuck Rosenberg, Michael Hayden, Frank Figliuzzi, Fran Townsend, Stephen Hall, Samantha Vingerode, Andrew McCabe, Josh Campbell, on. And the list is too long for me even to go through. And of course, they mention NBC's Ken Dillenine, CIA interns like Anderson Cooper, and CIA applicants like Tucker Carlson. Moving along swiftly, Silicon Valley companies are being told by U.S. senators that they need to manipulate and control information on their platforms to prevent the fomenting of discord. Oh my goodness. All right. And then we've got Western governments in the NATO military alliance developing tactics of cognitive warfare using the supposed threats of China and Russia to justify weighing a battle for your brain, quote unquote, in the human domain to make everyone a weapon. Let me actually give me a moment on that one. Corey Drayton, there's a video attached to that one, and it is particularly disturbing. How can I even describe it? So there's a whole unit. Dude, this video is nuts. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Cover for me for a second and give me your thoughts on where we're at. I'm going to go a little further down this thread here, but you see the image that she's painting here, with all of these articles, all these things, all these bullet points that, you know, we've been talking about for years, but when you stack them up like this, it starts to look pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it does. You know, it starts to really show the, well, frankly, Stalinist origins of the whole idea of disinformation in the first place. You know, and a thing that really disgusts me, I mean, apart from the fact that this is even happening at all, is the language that they use. You know, they say in that article you were reading, Hesh, how to properly seek out. Excuse me? Who are you to tell me how to properly seek out information? I'm an adult. I can think for myself. I can take care of my business just fine. I don't need Big Brother, or I guess Big Sister, really, frankly, to tell me how to seek out information and how to process what I'm being exposed to and what I should or should not think, what I should or should not say, what is approved or disapproved of language. I mean, the absolute hubris and arrogance and paternalism of these people, I think that certainly turns me off, but then I'm not the sort of person who's been infantilized, to the degree that I think it was Mindspace earlier in the show who brought up the fantastic point that so many people out there these days have been completely infantilized, and they've been really browbeaten and traumatized into dependency on these agencies and on these entities to show them the way. So this is really just another example of that kind of sick paternalism.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is, man. So this is crazy because it culminates in, let me bring this up over here. I want to show you guys this. It's a little longer than I would like it to be, but it's kind of worth checking out. So this tweet thread, it goes on to look at, the way Silicon Valley is involved here. Let's see here. Clint Watts, former U.S. Army officer, former FBI agent, and member of Alliance for Securing Democracy, made the following apocalyptic proclamation, quote, "Civil wars don't start with gunshots. They start with words. America's war with itself has already begun. We all must act now on the social media battlefield to quell information rebellions that can quickly lead to violent confrontations and easily transform us into the divided states of America." Are you kidding me? That's what the mass media cartel is doing.
Yeah, the gaslighting is unreal here. Whenever they say something, just know that they're using the flowery language that does itself have meaning, but they just mean the opposite. So it's like when they were saying media literacy. We talk about that on this show all the time. We're talking about getting people hip to the tricks that go on with media and its manipulative tactics that they're using. What they're talking about is that itself, that process has to be shut down because that's not proper media. That's not being media literate. You got to, go to. So what is it? I mean, it's just more lies, more lies, more lies. And it's like if our government had any sort of humility that it was within, that where it was serving the people, it wouldn't double, triple, quadruple down. And also it would acknowledge the discontents of the people. I mean, it's kind of a lot of hubris to assume that you're never going to be criticized by the people. That, in a state where there's some harmony between the populace and the state, there would be a platform provided because the idea is, hey, we are all in this together and we're trying to better our state so we can move on to the future. But that doesn't seem to be the vision here. It's like if you complain about the 1,000 ways in which we're being stolen from every single day, then that puts you in the same camp as a Putin sympathizer. That doesn't fly because that's not the reality of the situation. The fact of the matter is that the establishment has made every wrong decision going back 100 years at least plus. So we're in this decline. They should be expecting that if you make bad policy decisions, if you make anti-human decisions, if you limit the freedoms of the people, and you tell them that they have to do this, they have to do that, keep on sacrificing, more of this austerity, well then, hey, you're getting the result that those policies engender, which is that people aren't happy about it. So you could either address those grievances. If they don't address the grievances, that proves that they are in fact malevolent and will not back down against the populace.
Yeah. Cognitive warfare. Cognitive warfare. Western governments in the NATO military alliance are developing tactics of cognitive warfare using the supposed threats of China and Russia to justify a quote unquote battle for your brain in the human domain to make everyone a weapon. Go read that one. It's in this thread. All these things are in this thread. I'm not expanding on them or it'll take forever. Next one. The Atlantic's neocon spinmeister Anne Applebaum advocating for more propaganda, but just not calling it that. That one's interesting. Some interesting comments there from that one. State Department ramping up a secretive counter propaganda center to fight Russian disinformation. Who defines what that is? Oh, the State Department does, I suppose. Interesting. And then there's this, the U.S. government funding independent media in the Ukraine. Whoa. Yeah, actually, yeah, there it is. Put it on the screen for you. Second bullet there in the additional $8.5 billion economic assistance recently to help government of Ukraine. Bullet number 2 here. Counter Russian disinformation and propaganda narratives. Promote accountability for Russian human rights violation and support activists, journalists, and independent media to defend freedom of expression. $8.5 billion there, gang. And how is giving money to why is our government giving money to independent media in the Ukraine to tell them what to say about Russia? Oddman out. What am I? How do we cross that T? I don't understand that.
It's to me, Ukraine is basically Western controlled anyway. For the most part, maybe not totally, but I think that they've been mostly controlled at least since 2014, maybe even before. But I kind of started thinking about them sort of like I think about Israel in a way, a little bit different, but it's like Joe Biden said, if there wasn't an Israel, the United States would have to create one to protect its assets in the area. And I feel like that's what's going on over there with Ukraine. And I also feel like there's probably, I'm sure a lot of you guys have thought about this, a lot of money laundering that's probably happened in Ukraine because of the billions that's poured into it since, even since the 90s when, George Soros first started pouring money into it. But, a lot of our tax monies went into Ukraine, and these oligarchs and these people have taken it and there's no traces of it. So it's like they're really trying to protect their sphere of influence over there and whatever else that's going on that we don't know about in Ukraine that's making them a lot of money or allowing them to hide money, funnel money, or what have you.
I saw the value of a Javelin missile recently. I think just the ammo, I think a reload on that thing is like $178,000 or something like that. Can you imagine just taking like such a absurdly expensive piece of military hardware that we make here in the United States and sending like the majority of your stock to a corrupt foreign country? I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush here. If you're, think I'm being mean to the people of Ukraine, I know this is bad for everybody there, but come on. I think we can all recognize that their military is not a succinct unit. There's different people with different ideologies doing different things, and there is a massive amount of corruption there. I think even Ukrainians would agree with me. The level of corruption that goes on in their government. We'll take the brunt of it, right? If ours was able to get their fingers in theirs and start mucking with it, then that's not good. That's not a good sign because ours is super, super fucking corrupt. And if ours is in there mucking around, then just by extension. You know, it's not a dig; it's just a fact.
You know, also, Hesh, I haven't looked into it, but I read, I think it was in a tweet, but I could be wrong. It was a couple days ago and I was kind of distracted, but it said that we had signed a lend and lease program with Ukraine now and it had been passed. And it's like, if that's true, you know, we did that with the Soviet Union, which basically allowed, a lot of people say it allowed the Soviets to build up their arsenal and actually become a superpower. And if that's truly been signed and it's official, it just hit me today. Are they, you know, because we end up fighting everybody we fund and arm, it seems like. You know, it just hit me. What are we going to be fighting Ukraine in a couple years, you know, or whoever's got all those weapons, the Nazis, perhaps? I don't know. It seems insane to me.
Right? What if something goes horribly wrong and all or a portion of the stuff that has been sent over there, literal cash and military aid, gets in the wrong hands, or maybe it even landed in the wrong hands already? I mean, people are having a hard time coming in and out of this country. People are bribing their way across the borders. I mean, wondering, well, wouldn't you imagine, like, if you had this corrupt situation, there were people trying to leave, get to safety, people trying to figure out who they were going to fight with, people not being allowed to leave, and we're just dumping pallets of javelin missiles, grenades, and law rockets, ammunition, all kind of like, it's not out of the realms of possibility to think that some of that stuff is going to get into the wrong hands. It's going to leave the country. We've seen this happen before.
Yeah, we certainly have. There are definitely a number of historical analogs to what's going on now, and I mean, certainly, you know, the Middle East comes to mind. We've talked about that many, many times on this show and other adjacent programs. Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility to imagine that within the next 5 to 10 years, there will be American military units, you know, that are actually publicly disclosed, because I'm certain that there are units on the ground doing things there now, but more on a, you know, on a mass scale, certainly dealing with the fallout of what is occurring there today. I think that's certainly no great stretch to imagine that being the case. But certainly in terms of other historical analogs, I mean, I think you can go back and you can look at, you know, I mean, Mark Twain is famous for saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it does sometimes rhyme. Well, you can look at the Weimar Republic and what was going on in Germany between World War I and World War II, and look at the economic situation there, the ideological fracturing that was going on, the riots on the streets, the clashes between various dichotomized ideological camps, which certainly we're seeing here. But what happened right after the Weimar era was the Spanish Civil War. And I keep thinking about the Spanish Civil War in the context of Ukraine because, you know, again, a lot of the things that we are seeing in Ukraine now were going on in Spain in the 1930s. I mean, right down to the fact that you had various mercenary units where you have soldiers of fortune from all over the world going there to Spain to fight in various factions, in various kind of ragtag military units supporting all sides of that conflict. And then you also have the major players in armed conflict throughout World War II were testing their weapon systems and their tactics in Spain during the Civil War. I mean, there's a very famous painting of the bombing of the village of Guernica. Well, you know, that was an attack that is believed to have been carried out by the Luftwaffe, who were testing out dive bombing tactics with their Stuka bombers. So, you know, it's a lot of what is old is new again, you know, and these things always seem to come back around. So I think that's definitely a good point, and I certainly would continue to watch the situation closely and look for other historical analogs. You know, the last thing I'll say about this is, you know, a lot of people, when they think about, and again, this sort of ties into propaganda, you know, we think a lot about the mythos that's been created around certain military operations. So let's say the French resistance, the Maquis, during World War II, during the German occupation. And both the United States and Great Britain were dropping weapons and supplies to French resistance cells during that occupation. But what a lot of people don't know is that the French resistance was not a unified force the way it's been portrayed in the movies and in video games such as Call of Duty. It was actually a group of cells who largely hated each other and largely competed with each other for resources. And so it was not uncommon for French resistance groups to ambush each other and kill each other over weapons and material and supplies, not only to have an upper hand in fighting the Germans, but because of their own ideological predispositions. So I really do think that to understand what is currently going on in Ukraine, you've got to go back and you have to read about the Spanish Civil War and you have to read about the French resistance. And you'll gain a lot of insights there that will help you predict what we can expect to see playing out on the ground there in the years to come.
Yeah, really good advice, man. Yeah, talk about adding some context to the picture here. Because the reality is, beyond what any of us can imagine. Like whatever, nuanced situation you and I could come up with, and imagine's happening over there. Add that to the billions of dollars that are going into propagandizing everybody there. I mean, look how we are here in this country. We're so polarized. Nobody knows what's going on. We don't know how to talk to each other. We just argue on social media and call each other names and judge each other and stuff. And it's just really difficult for anyone here to put ourselves in that situation there with all of the other stuff that's applied to it because of everything that Caitlin just went through here. All of these links, they all play into it. The point that is being made here, the point I take away at least, is that it drives home what I was saying in the beginning of the show and what we've all been saying throughout the show here in one way or another. And that is that our media system is rank and toxic and weaponized against us right now. And it's militarized. All right. So the last bullet here, switch it over so I can put it on screen. She's pointing out official verified account of the U.S. Army's 1st Special Forces Command with this weird film school video about how U.S. psyops are behind foreign uprisings and manipulate public thought. Whoa. All right. Okay. So that's interesting. So I clicked on it. I'm going to play it for you guys. This is, just something sitting out there on YouTube. Folks that listen on the podcast, I may have to edit this. It's a lot of text and video at parts, but there's also some voiceover as well. So we'll see how this goes. But for everybody watching, here you go. This is I don't know what to call this.
As the world watches and listens in horror, the peaceful pro-democracy demonstration in China comes to a violent and bloody end. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wolves hiding nearby, whispering do or die around me. You say your last good night while I get by.
there is another very important phase of warfare. It has as its target not the body, but the mind of the enemy.
The target of psychological warfare is against the enemy's mind.
It is words and ideas.
The ammunition used by Psywar.
Its mission is to influence the thoughts of the enemy soldiers, and at the same time
is expected and encouraged to study foreign languages and the social sciences such as history, economics, and sociology. He must have a broad and sympathetic understanding of all phases of human experience.
Gripping at my skin, the walls of night closing.
But the use of this force as an integral part of combat has now taken on new form.
As I wait to say my last goodbye.
These are the Psywar soldiers.
Wow, right? My goodness. What the hell did we just witness? Wandering Wolf. What do you make of that, man? Before you do though, I went to the website that it had. I took this bullet for everybody. It's called goarmysoft.com. Put that on screen real quick here. So essentially, I think what we witnessed there was a recruitment video. I think that was the purpose of it, to go to this page right here, Go Army Soft. And lo and behold, they've got their different sections of the website, and one of them is psychological operations, and you click into there. Unconventional minds for unconventional warfare, psychological operations. They have benefits of being special ops in this department. So yeah, what the hell, dude? I have never seen a recruitment piece like that. Give me your thoughts on what we just saw there.
Yeah, pretty audacious, huh? Yeah, this sort of thing. It's this is not the first time I've seen this kind of thing. I mean, I have been working on a documentary project very closely with Special Forces, U.S. Special Forces, Green Berets, and they have mentioned to me a number of times that they have an office of psychological warfare. They're very open, at least about talking about the existence of that kind of operation, and I think it's largely because they see it as inevitable just because of the nature of warfare today. I mean, it used to be that you could talk about the battlefield being something that was very much physically contained to burning crops and fighting opposing armies, but now they refer to it not as the battlefield but the battle space. And that encompasses everything from information to economics to culture. It's all the battlefield. Existence is the battlefield. The human condition itself is the battlefield. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a movement in terms of how these organizations continue to operate, and some would argue justify their existence. It's also interesting too. I don't know if you caught the motto at the end, the Latin verbum vincet. If I recall, my Latin's a bit rusty, but that means the word of the conqueror. Now think about what that harkens back to. That harkens back to the idea that history is written by the victors. So it really ties to what we were watching earlier this evening, the CFR incident, and the way history was being referred to as a narrative. All of these things interconnected and intertwined. Now, say what you will about U.S. foreign policy. It is interesting to note that what I've learned from working with special forces over the last year is a lot of them, the vast majority of special forces operators, come from a significant amount of childhood trauma. And what they have often told me is that they are drawn to the special forces because of the motto of the special forces itself, de oppressor liber, to liberate the oppressed. So the idea basically being that they don't want people abroad to suffer the same oppression and abuse that they suffered as children. So you could say that the psychological warfare itself starts just in what we've seen, the idea of recruitment, taking people who have been abused and traumatized and molding them into instruments to advance the causes of U.S. foreign policy, and therefore, by extension, the policy of whoever is really running things behind the scenes. So it's interesting to look at from that angle, and it's also interesting to look at from the angle of we have an entire generation of kids who grew up on video games like Call of Duty, and here they are using the aesthetics of those games, which, hey, I admit I love too, to sell this idea of, hey, be a special forces operator, it's cool, we're the ghost in the machine, we work in the shadows, making it very sexy, sexing it up to bring people into the fold of enforcing this new mindset and this new idea. So yeah, it's interesting to see just how it's a combination of creative and insidious. And I think that it'll be very interesting to see where this goes next.
It's pretty brilliant marketing, I must say, for the age bracket that they're going for. It's got all the cool factor, but it does it's striking when you see that after going through all the ways in which things are being redefined and political polarization is being, they're telling us that they need to do political polarization. They're telling us that they're in charge of a narrative that is going a certain way, you know what I mean? And they're telling us that we're not allowed to challenge the narrative or without being branded, against your own government, basically. So I don't know. What are you guys thinking, man? Mindspace, what do you think about all that, man? That was a pretty crazy video.
That was really shocking. I mean, the biggest surprise for me was that it was an army ad. The whole time I just had no idea, and I think I'd seen some parts of that clip before, and I just thought it was like some viral video that was going around in the alt media sphere or something. I thought it was made by like an alt media person that might have been actually advocating in the direction of truth and freedom in a weird way. So to me, that's significant. That means that there's something about the subtext of that is very insidious in terms of how it's picking up a lot of the threads that I would say alt media people are coming to grips with, and how we're beginning to see a fuller picture of the world, but it's almost like, I feel like the propagandists and the whole apparatus that is around that at this point is learning from the alt media of how to do media. And I can't necessarily point to a single frame or thing that's in there that's here's a fact, to show it with certainty. But I just feel like they are imbibing some of the ideas that we have collectively generated and are regurgitating them in this really pernicious and just demented form to psychically drive people in the direction to go army. I mean, does that sound like too far? Because I want to hear what the feedback is on that.
Oh.
Am I off base?
No, it doesn't sound too far at all, man. I mean, and think about it this way: we in that one particular tweet I was reading, we're talking about sending a $8.3 billion aid package over there, including money for independent media. What do you mean by that? Like, I'm sorry, who's going to Ukraine, and are they just giving money to? It's the whole idea is a joke anyways, because Zelensky just closed down a whole bunch of wings of the media that weren't pushing the government line. You know what I mean? They closed down and they've imprisoned a bunch of journalists also that are not friendly to the Ukrainian government line. I mean, look at there's one guy who's basically on house arrest. His life is in danger right now for being independent media over there. So who's handing this money out, and who's it going to? Like, there's no accountability for this. We're talking billions of dollars. How does that work? Well, I have to think, like, after looking at everything tonight, I wouldn't be beyond just spitballing here, just wargaming, but it wouldn't be out of left field to think that maybe this fourth psyop group, right, might be in charge of that, or something similar. Might be, this is their YouTube channel that was uploaded 10 days ago. They made a whole YouTube channel for this. It's the only video on it. Fourth psyop group, which is attached to that, that army unit. So, and yeah, we've had these things forever. This has always been a factor, but it's really kind of creepy to see the way that it's being presented here. And the thing that really kind of freaked me out a little bit was I felt like, they were showing footage from actual uprisings and places and times where a regime change had happened. So it's almost like through the video, they're telling us that they have a hand in regime change. They're admitting that that's what this is for. That's why we do this. So that's something totally different than, at least in my book, that regime change stuff, covert regime change happening without congressional approval and while propagandizing the people at home and the people of the places where they're doing regime change, and using fear of foreign changes and people to do so is, indicative of why we cannot trust the media as a whole.
Admitting to doing these things and making them virtuous by making them look sexy, by making them look like something that you want to be a part of. Hey, this is cool. We get really cool weapons, and we get to go to far-flung places and operate in the shadows and change the course of history. Really sexing that up also has the ancillary benefit of turning it into a virtuous act. I think that's also important to recognize. I keep thinking of a 1925 Russian film, really Soviet film, called Battleship Potemkin, which is one of Sergei Eisenstein's great films, and it's considered to be the film that kind of brought to modern understanding montage and editing, and it's considered to be the Hegelian dialectic brought to cinema really for the first time. And the story, for those who don't know, is it's about a mutiny that occurred on a Soviet. Well, again, this was before the events of 1917. So a battleship in 1905, under the Tsar, the crew of the battleship staged a mutiny against their own officers, and it's about the drama that plays out. And it's very interesting because it was really the first example of how cinema, in particular, became the official narrative of a historical event. And I think since then, we've had an entire genre of historical films that a lot of people would consider to be fact, even though they're not. And anyone who really looks into the actual history of an event realizes, well, oftentimes a film will compress a narrative, or they'll compress characters, and they'll have 10 different people who did 10 different things represented by one unifying character who is suddenly in all places at once, interacting with all these historical figures, making key decisions. And I think that we're starting to see that sort of thing also convalescing in videos like this, recruitment pieces, propaganda videos, this idea of collapsing narrative, collapsing reality, collapsing the complex into the simple, and making that an official recollection or official understanding of something that's happened. And if we add to that the equation of sexing something up as well, we're not only making something virtuous, but we're also saying, hey, this thing that happened is the absolute truth and it cannot be questioned at all. And so the degree to which they're doing that and also borrowing some aesthetic techniques, editing techniques from the independent media, well, yeah, I mean, I think that, certainly from my own experience, there are a lot of conversations that happen when a project is being pitched and developed. Everyone comes in with a mood board of other people's videos, other people's films, other people's photography or writing that always informs the vision. And so this idea of originality in a piece of art has largely not only been lost, it's actually been deliberately cast aside, because the recognition that these tools are weapons that can capture hearts and minds. Now, there's a military term that dates back to, at least as far as I'm aware, the Vietnam War. Right down to the fact that there's a narrative film that was made about this very thing called Hearts and Minds. The temptation to utilize visual media to change people's minds is so great that it supersedes art itself. And I think we've definitely arrived at that point.
That might account for what Mark was talking about earlier, where everything is of lesser quality. It's almost like it makes sense because what you're describing right there is the there's constraints when the art, or if you prefer the magic, Alan Moore, if you're out there, has been weaponized, stringently weaponized. There's nowhere to go with it, right? They have to make a formula out of it. It has to have, A, B, C, and D. It's not a symphony of whatever your mind can pick out. It's like it's got to have all this stuff so that it can be properly packaged, properly delivered, properly, media weaponized to achieve its goal. So that makes it stringent, that makes it boring, that makes it a formula, that makes it something that is churned out, and it is just rife for it's begging for recyclage. There's a new Resident Evil coming out. It looks like total garbage, has nothing to do with Resident Evil. All they have is that label, and the nostalgia of guys like us that played that stuff years ago. It has nothing to do with any of the original story whatsoever. They've changed the race and sex of some of the characters. It's just like, what is this? Well, it's probably, I haven't seen it yet, it's not out, but it's probably another weaponized piece of media propaganda that has to be, in that little cookie cutter, and it comes with its own audience. So they think. They didn't realize that most of the audience was much like, Star Wars, and can just be like, no, we're not into that. This is terrible. But anyway, that's sort of an aside. It's just like, I think it speaks to sort of the concepts here tonight for sure.
Well, interestingly enough, too, another thing that gets recycled are the people who create the films and the media in the first place. And it's interesting because there are some very celebrated films from the 1960s and 70s that sort of predict this. One of them is a 1969 film called Medium Cool, which is about a news cameraman who gets caught up in street rioting during the Democratic National Convention in Chicago and ends up becoming the news himself. I won't spoil the film. And another is that classic film, The Conversation, with very young Gene Hackman. And both of these films kind of dealt with media dealt with recording, what it means to be captured, what it means to be taped, what it means to be filmed, and how the moment you insert a recording device of any kind into a situation, you automatically change the nature of the situation because you're imposing a point of view. And that the very act of capturing a person's voice or image in the first place, eventually, that becomes an act that, that act in and of itself can be captured and used in basically against the interest of the person who's being captured and the person doing the capturing as well. Like to be a person who is capturing something means that you are also at danger and at risk of being captured yourself by the mechanism of the media machine. I mean, this is something I'm very well aware of in my line of work. I always have to be cognizant of what I'm doing if I bring a camera into a situation or if the camera is pointed at me. And now we're living in an age where everyone has these cameras, right? So we become completely hyper aware of the fact that we could be, probably are, being recorded at any time, at any given moment. So the capture has become the culture, whether you're in the media or not.
Yeah, no kidding. It's really weird to see. It's really weird to be a part of, It's not something I ever thought I would be engaged in, yet here we are, zipping around the internet and cameras and lights in our faces and all that mess, we're doing it. Geez, Ruckus, what do you think, man? What do you think about like where we ended up on that whole thread? It's like we go through that whole thread there, and it kind of just like, I don't know. I wasn't surprised by much of it, but when you see it, when you line it all up like that, it's like, yeah, I remember that. Oh, I hadn't seen that yet. Oh, wow. And then there's this video to cap it all off. Just crazy night.
I have no idea how the whole thing began. I forgot already. I took a bunch of notes, and I don't know what any of it has to do with anymore. I would have to work this whole thing backwards because I didn't comment on any of it from the beginning on. So I think you guys touched upon everything I was going to say for the most part. To your point, MindSpaceArt, if we made that video, because that video certainly gave away a lot. That was definitely them doing way more than just projecting their punches. They were literally showing you how they do it. So basically, that video was a perfect, beautifully produced example of things that we try to explain to other people are taking place in the world, and then they scream at us in our faces and call us crazy conspiracy theorists. While at the same time, the U.S. government's branch of the military here, the psychological, it exists, and they want to recruit you. We want you, but otherwise, if we tell you about it, we're crazy conspiracy theorists. So basically, MindSpaceArt, if we made that video, it would be fact checked, right? I find it really interesting. The biggest thing they were projecting there, Hesher, was something that we've been saying, and colleagues of ours throughout the years have been saying nonstop, all the time. And we hear it in the news. When they talk about war, they discuss it as a theater. And here they are saying all the world is a stage. So literally, this branch of the military is not hiring soldiers. They're hiring actors. There you go. Moving on, Hesher, about the javelins and how expensive they are. Drones are incredibly expensive, too. The ones they're using out there, sending to Ukraine. I just saw a little bit. I think it was courtesy of Dr. Ron Paul or somebody like that. I hope I'm right on that one. It could have been High Impact Flicks as well, or Luke Radowski, one of those fine folks out there are keen to these things. But yeah, those drones that they're using cost like an insane amount of money just to operate it by the hour. So you should look up how much that costs, which is ridiculous. And to your point, Wandering Wolf, you were saying something, I think, about the historical analog, and Hesher, you were mentioning about what if these weapons were to fall into the wrong hands. Yeah, what about the whole Operation Fast and Furious? What if this is something like that as well? What if they want to track where do these weapons go when we lose track of them out there in the war theater stage? Who knows? So that's an interesting thought too. Maybe they want to purposely let it fall into the wrong hands so they can do whatever the F they're going to do with that there. And one last thing to wrap this up for you, Hesher, and going back to that original video, I don't know if you even still have that anywhere close to your screen, but I advise people to rewind, go back, watch that CFR video right there. To everybody's point, and I think especially Mark Anderson's, I'd like to say all of this means jack shit. Because if you watch the audience who are there in person, they took the effort to go attend the speeches by these people. They look effing bored to death, people. There's one lady standing there literally staring at the ceiling. So what does that tell you? I don't know, but a lot of this is just theater.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just amazing, man. The on that YouTube, it's just crazy. All the world's a stage. I mean, wow. All right. Well, I'm getting lost in the mix here, you guys. I'm gonna just start winding us down here, but we'll go through the rounds here. I want to thank everybody who was on the show tonight. I don't even know if I can remember. It seems like everybody was here tonight. It was a giant room. Holy crap. Thanks, Mark Anderson, for joining us. Thanks, Infidel Pharaoh. Thanks, Oddman Out. Thanks, Spore. You're still here with me, your host, Hesher, Wandering Wolf, Mr. Corey Drayton, Mr. Adam Clark, aka Ruckus, and the MindSpaceArt of Soul Purpose. MindSpace, thanks for being here tonight, man. Let's get out of here. I think it's time to shut the books on this one, or we're gonna. I don't know. I feel like we're on the verge of like opening up some sort of media rift here. We've been live streaming and riffing this for too long. We've been breaking it down too long. We got to get out of here, man.
The boiler room is the real CERN. All right, we spent too long in here. We're gonna open up an interdimensional portal.
That's right.
And then
Adam's
it's gonna get ugly. So, yeah, it's been a pleasure to be here tonight. So many great voices and points of view that have been on here. We're always getting to the nitty gritty, and we always find something that's something to take away. And I think that's happened many times in the course of tonight. So, let us get our sleep so that we can keep up the momentum for this as we go along. I will, have a post up for the Alan Moore bit. I think it's almost done here. Might actually even already published it, but you should be able to find that on the website. And then we'll also get it up on the YouTube. Please check out the rest of my content at West Lexicon, one word, primarily on BitChute. You can also find a few videos up on YouTube under West Lexicon Media. And more to come. And it's been a fine night. So I'm glad to have been here with all of you gentlemen. And we'll be looking forward to it when we can get together again.
Absolutely, my friend. Thanks for being here tonight. That's MindSpaceArt, everybody. Wandering Wolf, over to you, man. Thanks for being here. This was we're approaching, it says we've been live for 3 hours and 47 minutes. So you guys are all the troopers here for this super long overdrive session in the boiler room. But I'm really happy to have been here and be here with you guys and Spore and everybody out there in the chat rooms. Thanks again for the tip jar there on Rockfin. Over to the Wandering Wolf.
Yeah, thanks, Hesher. Yeah, I'm so glad that I could make it tonight, and wow, we've gone almost 4 hours, and having been up and working since 5 o'clock this morning, I wasn't sure if I'd make it through. But I always find that when I'm in the boiler room, I get a second wind. I get a rush of just an infusion of energy and excitement and glee. Once we got into the groove of the show, I absolutely knew I would make it to the end. So I'm just so glad to be here with all of you guys on the call and with everyone who was here earlier and had to leave early. It's just been tremendous fun. I want to leave you with just a last thought about the reference to Shakespeare in the video that we just watched. The idea of all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Yeah, it's definitely a reference to theater there, but if you read the rest of the quote, he's going on, he's talking about all the various stages of life, from birth through infancy, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and eventually death. And it's interesting to note that at the very end, you know, he says the last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history, interesting choice of words there, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. And that is something really, I think, to keep in mind, that to lose our senses, to lose our cognition, to lose our ability to see things and hear things and recognize the empirical reality of sense data that we're taking in is death. And so if we are walking through the world as human beings with our senses not fully attuned and not being fully utilized, then we are in a state of death. So stay alive, everyone. Keep your senses sharp. Make sure that they are functioning, and do not become a zombie at the service of the mass media cartel. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, that's the Wandering Wolf, everybody, right there. Well said, my friend. Well said. Ruckus, over to you, man. Thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate you more than you know, as always. And let everybody know about the new series, Speed Kills, that has just launched on the Daily Ruckus this week. We got some more to look forward to, right? That's going to be a multi-episode series.
Yeah, and as usual, it's not going to be coming out on the daily, but they'll be coming out as soon as possible, as fast as possible, as it were, but plenty of time for you to catch up with part one. I am titling this series Speed Kills, and part one is called Fast. Coming soon, part two, Faster. So, but I do want to let everybody know about something kind of different that I started doing. So make sure you go to alternatecurrentradio.com and click on the actual show post for my most recent episodes. And at the top of those episodes, including this one I just mentioned, Fast, Speed Kills Part 1, it says, listen to a special enhanced version here. It's a link right on top. Click that, and now it'll open another post. I know, annoying, but now you get to listen to a special version of that episode that can only be listened to right there. You won't find that on the Spreaker or the SoundClouds or the Googles or the podcasts apps and Spotify's. Only at alternatecurrentradio.com can you listen to the enhanced version episodes of the Daily Ruckus. So check it out if you've been missing it. And thanks, guys, for having me. This was a night to remember for sure. Since I'll probably forget, I'll have to rewatch it on YouTube or Rockfin, or re-listen to it on Spreaker, or any of these other fine places you guys get your podcasts. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and don't forget to like and share our stuff wherever you like to do that. Personally, I like to tweet on Twitter. I don't know where you guys like to tweet, but all kidding aside, thanks again, everybody. Good night. May God bless each and every one of you, and may God save our republic.
Yeah, that's Ruckus, everybody. Check out the Daily Ruckus. If you're new around here, if you've been around here a while, I know you're checking it out. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. I'm your host. My call sign's Hesher, per usual. Thanks, everybody out there on Rockfin, out there on YouTube, out there on Spreaker. Great show. Massive overdrive session here. So thanks, everybody, for sticking with us. We will be live again very soon. Join us for Sunday Wire every Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, 5 p.m. in the UK, and every weeknight at 8 p.m. Central. All right. So we'll see you for another live stream real soon. Peace out, everybody.
That's it. Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.